All right. Sean Reed,
What's happening?
good morning. So, why in the world would you run for a city seat? What are you thinking?
I ask myself that every day. I'll be honest with you. It does take a lot out of your day to day, especially being a small business owner.
What business do you run?
So we're a preschool business. My family and I, we've done that for many, many years. I've done it for 17 or 18 years now personally. We've been around for 36 years now, I believe. So it's been quite a long time in Martin County in general. We've been in the city of Stuart since 93, I believe. 92, 93, I'd have to look. So it's been a long time. As far as running, it's something I've thought about. Just seeing what goes on down there and showing up and voicing my particular issues where I've seen projects come through, and you come and you public comment and you still feel that the projects are still going to get approved regardless of what I say. I feel like the agenda has already been made up. I don't think they like telling people no because most of them are friends. That's
You're-
my opinion.
you're
You
not-
see the same
you're
key
not wrong.
players.
There's definitely a network.
Yeah, and there's a lot of close ties, whether it's business, friends, they've known each other since high school, middle school, some of them go way back. And there's a common ground at one point or another. Obviously, most of them are realtors, developers, contractors even, surveyors, land planners. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
You'd think you would not be allowed to be in a business that directly profits from the decisions you make or indirectly. Like if, as a chiropractor, I motioned to have subsidized stipends for every resident to get chiropractic care.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a big problem.
I mean, it's strange how there's like this whole industry that is surrounding the municipal government. Like chiropractors would never be all surrounding
Yeah.
and benefit or lose based on the decisions that are made.
It's true. I mean, you see the same. I mean, there's probably 50 key players when it comes to these projects, right? And it's amazing when you go down to the meetings, a lot of the stuff is generic. You see the same people in opposition and the same people in support. But when those 5 commissioners vote on a project, I mean, there's 25,000 residents in the city at this point, right? We've grown tremendously, probably.
Close to. It's like 23 from what I understand, and then the max build out would be 25.
Yeah.
Currently is a projection, but yeah.
And there's a lot. And at the end of the day, when you do vote, it affects everybody, not only in the city as well as the county. I mean, Canner and US 1 is a total disaster trying to pass through that intersection. That affects every county resident as well. So like I said, these same 50 key players should not be making the decisions of all the residents. I'm not sure if they really crawl on social media and browse around, but that's where you see a lot of comments of locals that maybe they work, maybe they can't make it down to the meeting at the times that they're at. Sure, they could email and call as well, but you don't really hear about that stuff being brought up, at least in past agenda items. You didn't really hear about it as often.
When I bring it up, it's a lot of like dismissing and marginalizing that ensues. Oh, those are just Chris's friends. It's those just mean, nasty people that have it's a lot of human beings that don't want a particular project or feel a certain way. It's not just the same small group of NIMBY frustrated people. Like
Yeah.
if you talk to anybody outside of your little circle, it's a lot of people that don't like a certain project. I don't want to get sued, so I won't name specific projects, but
Yeah, there's been a lot of projects that have come before the city that are very controversial, that you can stack a room of people in opposition, and guess what? That project's still going through at the end of the day. And that's what I've seen personally since being involved for the last several years, watching from an outside perspective before deciding to run last year.
it's one of the negative side effects of the sunshine rules. So no, it's not politically popular to say anything negative about sunshine rules, but when we can't talk besides the meeting, your commissioners, you get to talk to your staff, right? But when the commissioners can't communicate until the meeting, what ends up happening, which is when a decision gets made, you come in with an agenda. And often those agendas are, 180 to each other. And it just seems like chaos because we haven't had a chance to. So at those meetings, they should almost be longer so we can have time to discuss and formulate. But it ends up sort of being a war of whichever 3 or 4 commissioners are on the same page already, which, yeah.
You see it. And as far as research and, let's say an agenda item comes up for a commission meeting on Monday. I believe it gets posted on Thursday.
Right.
That's not a lot of time.
It's not.
I'm a very good computer person. I'm natural at it. I've always thought it was easy to, do a lot of research and development, basically, you could say. You're looking up who owns the property. You're crawling through Property Appraiser, Sunbiz. You're looking through every public record thing you can to get all the information you can, and you're making all your bullet points. And then, some things do jump out, and you're looking at what city staff has done and what they've researched in the code just to see what's allowed, what's not allowed. Mm-hmm. Is it extreme? I mean, yes, there are property rights. That's been a big thing that's been brought up. But if you come in front of the commission, you're asking for an exemption. You're asking for forgiveness in a way from 5 commissioners that sit up there, and they're making the decision on the project. And they're also looking at the facts. Now, there's some commissioners that might do more research than others. I know personally when I see an agenda item coming up, it does take up a lot of time researching it and getting all the facts together.
Some of these things are like 600 pages. If you're really going to go through the traffic study seriously, or the drainage, or...
Yeah,
you're deep.
You are very, very
deep. If you
deep.
have two projects on an agenda, and you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, it's not enough time. I know that's a big thing with residents that are very involved as well. Those 3 days, and you still want to enjoy the weekend, right? You work hard all week. And
not if you're a commissioner.
You have Saturday and
you're
Sunday.
Working. Yeah.
You are working, and it's long hours, and you're constantly researching things, and that's really what you're doing. And you should be a questioner. When something comes up before you, question everything. Even if it sounds silly, ask the question, and hopefully you get a logical answer and not something that's just fluffed up to hopefully send you down the road, I guess you could say. And I see that quite a bit as well, to where they're not...
It's easy to do. It's easy to just say yes and not have to dig into it or get pushed back,
Yeah, that's the easiest thing is to say yes, typically. My opinion, and if you do a little bit of research, you could say no on some projects. We don't need more car washes, I can tell you that. We don't need more fast food restaurants. I don't think the residents even want more apartments. There's just too many people that are living in them. You might have 250 apartments on a project, but that's going to be 500, 600, 700 people living in them to afford them. When you're paying $3,000, $4,000 a month for something, it's not affordable, and I think that's a bigger issue anyway. And the city did try to fix, obviously, affordable housing, which all they did was add more density to us,
right,
and more traffic.
Yeah, if you're noticing, it didn't make it more affordable.
No, not at all. It's people.
If anything, it kicked up the market rate.
Yeah, it
what an apartment
drove
costs.
it through the roof, and you can look back 10 years ago compared to now, and I think it's everywhere though. When you look. It's not just the state of Florida issue, it's nationwide as far as the affordability of things. So that's what's been going on with that.
So what would you say are your main, agendas or tenets? Like what would you like to see different? If you're running, you're trying to change. What is it that you want to change? How do you want things to be different?
I'd like to see a lot more community involvement, and I can speak from my experience. When I see stuff come up, it's very cut and dry, and it's not really informing the residents. Maybe like, hey, why did this go a certain way? You could talk about the hotel that went on US 1 where ACOC was, right? So people are upset about that as well, but that was straight zoning. They went right to the building department, applied for permits. The commissioners have no say-so. When the commissioners have a say-so, though, that's where you should be standing up for the residents on what they're looking for and how they're perceiving the city to be. So that's one thing. Not saying yes to every development that comes in. Some things can be scaled back. I don't think we can approve another restaurant in downtown at 101 Colorado with no parking. How do you expect to add 150 seats and have no parking whatsoever? Stuff like that does blow my mind. And it's hard to say no to the applicants, I would imagine. You have two people that are representing the applicant that are very well known in the community, and I have spoken to both of them before. But when you're sitting on that commission, Diaz, you're not friends with anybody besides the residents. That's who you're representing. And it seems like the developers are in their pockets. So yes, I would say the development has been a big issue. The zoning changes, the multifamily. I don't think you're going to see as much of it, going forward because it's been done already. You're going to see more redevelopment though, which they're going to go for density in the redevelopments, I believe. They're going to be going up with more, and we'll see what happens with that. The traffic, that's been a total nightmare. I've heard there's certain projects going on, maybe to make Canner turning north onto US 1. I've heard that's going to be a 3-lane turning lane, and then it's going to be one into Colorado. I've heard about that project. I saw one where I had screenshotted it on Alice Street. They were going to move Alice Street to Wright Boulevard and then just eliminate that intersection. I'm not sure what happened with that project. That was a county project. That's not on their site anymore. So I'm not really sure why that disappeared.
In terms of decisions that have been made lately, I don't know if you feel comfortable going into like how you might have voted differently on recent decisions, or if you want to stay more general.
I mean, we can talk about which project. We can talk about the Hilton Hotel that shouldn't be in downtown Stuart.
How would you have voted differently on the Hilton Hotel?
I'd ask them to scale it back. 101 rooms. It's right in, right out. It's zoned to have a hotel there, right? You have shared parking. It doesn't mean you have to say yes to the project at all, even though it was zoned for it. They're asking, for the parking. That was the biggest thing they were asking for, really. And it got pushed through basically because he's a good guy. He's a good applicant, right? I don't think
that was something I noticed a lot of. Is it seemed like half of the people who were there were the residents who didn't want it, and then the other half of the people that were advocating for it either worked directly or indirectly for the applicant, and then weren't necessarily advocating for the quality of the project or the necessity for it, but were like character witnesses for him. It was interesting.
It was. And I mean, you can even talk about the 6 generic letters that were emailed to Jody Kugler, our development director. They were literally the same 6 letters with a different signature. When you see stuff like that, like I said, when I spoke in public comment, we're the city of Stuart. Like, we're supposed to be different. We're not Port St. Lucie, and we're not Palm Beach County. We're the city of Stuart, and I don't think anybody wanted to see a Hilton Hotel in downtown Stuart coming in off Colorado, seeing a monstrous 4-story building, and that's probably the first one that's on Colorado, and that
is the first 4-story.
And I don't foresee another one unless you see more redevelopment somewhere where someone's scooping up property and redeveloping it.
The Seacoast Plaza probably is going to be redeveloped. I think any banks.
Yeah,
banks don't need the space that they have anymore. So you're probably going to see like the Bank of America Plaza over there, and then Seacoast.
Yeah,
if I had to imagine.
First Baptist, that's another.
First Baptist, man.
I went to school there. That's another big one there. If that gets redeveloped, I don't even know how many apartments they could fit there if that's what they try. It'd probably be like a CPUD or something like that with residential and commercial.
All of them have to be PUDs, basically. Like that would be one that is currently institutional, right? Or
probably, yeah, for the school there.
Trying to pull up a picture of the property, but
it was under contract at one point, I believe, or they were trying to come up with a price agreement somewhere between $7 and $9 million is what I recall.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a large project there. If someone's sinking that kind of money in there, they want a return on their investment.
And everything's so expensive now that it basically has to be apartments, right? Or
Yeah, otherwise you're not going to turn a profit as a
Right.
developer or a business owner at that point. But yeah, I don't think the hotel should have been there. 101 rooms. And you can't even park in front of it. Who's really going to go there and have to walk from a parking garage? I don't know. Not me. Not from a true Hilton as well.
so that's that First Baptist property. And I guess it also includes the next door.
Yeah, it's a couple different ones because they have that street that separates them. Who knows? They might even try to get rid of that or something. I mean, I don't know. Don't know what these guys will come up with.
But so beyond that, the hotel, how dialed in are you to what was on the LPA agenda in terms of the car dealership with apartments? I can speak to it because it was on the LPA agenda, which is public.
Yeah, so we're talking about the two. I believe it was to add on to the existing dealership and add a new dealership. And I believe there was some commercial as well. And there was 268 apartments as well. And I want to say originally that was in the county and it was approved for commercial development with site plan approval and everything. So I actually went to that. They hosted a meeting at the Willoughby Country Club. So I had a resident that wanted me to go there on his behalf. So I decided to show up. I did a little bit of research. I got to see their presentation. There was probably 15 or 20 residents that spoke in opposition. I will tell you there was not one resident there that was in support of it. At least not the apartments. They wanted it to stay commercial. They absolutely were very adamant, no apartments. Even though the presenters for the developer were portraying them as luxury apartments, they were saying that their employees can live and work there. And that's basically how they were trying to portray the project to the residents, even though nobody was happy. I didn't see anyone in the crowd that was happy. It was all mentioned about developer greed and they want the apartments to maximize it. The applicants did say that this is a different apartment complex than what we've seen around the city. As far as I'm concerned, an apartment is an apartment complex.
How did they characterize it as different?
They said it was luxury and it was very high end. Okay. And that could have just been on who they were speaking to. You're talking to Willoughby Country Club, right? It's a whole different ball game on who you're speaking to. And maybe they switched their agenda up on how they were going to present it to them. And maybe to get their support. There was one comment made to the residents from someone that was speaking on behalf of the developer that said, well, you guys are Martin County residents, so you can't have a say-so in this anyway, which to me, that'd be an insult, I guess, living in Martin County because your voice does matter.
Well, if you're the property next door.
I mean, it directly affects you.
And more than the luxury aspect of the apartment, from who I've talked to, it seems like the concern is, and I'll toggle back to the map, but Willoughby there, those are single family homes. Those are large, single family homes. And so the concern is going from what I've heard, single story to 4-story apartments, and even though there will be some sort of buffer there with trees that potentially, that doesn't represent appropriate, I don't know the technical term, but like you hear wedding cake, you step by step, but you should go from 1 to 2 to maybe mixed use, then to 3, 4. You don't go from 1 to 4.
Yeah. I mean, that's what was approved there was a single story,
right?
Commercial project, retail, I believe it was. They even tried to portray it as, well, you don't want to hear semi trucks, do you? That's literally what they were telling the residents, that commercial was going to be more. Well, guess what? At the end of the day, commercial goes to bed, they go to sleep. Apartments could be all hours of the night.
So your take on it was that Willoughby wasn't very happy.
No, they were not happy. Every time someone spoke in opposition, the whole crowd erupted with clapping.
And it seems, it seems like nobody expects that parcel to be trees forever, right? But currently, Willoughby abuts up to Lowe's. You know, it's got Lowe's there. I'll bounce back over. It's got Lowe's, and then it's got the Ford and Audi, right? So they're used to that. It seems like their frustration is we don't need apartments,
Yeah.
4-story apartments right there. I think 3 buildings was what was proposed. Is what's proposed.
It was
3
either
4-story.
3 or 4 4-story buildings.
Right.
I'd have to pull it up in my notes.
But from my understanding, the applicant owns the Lowe's property, the Audi, and the Ford. So they're trying to roll in all of those properties into one PUD now, where they've been separate.
Yeah. There was a good comment I remember from one of the residents. I believe the first project that was approved there, I believe that would have been in the county then. I think the elevation was 26 foot from what I heard, and the apartments were going to be 44 to 47 feet.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge difference
Yeah.
as far as height.
Right.
It just, they basically don't want the apartments. That's what it comes down to. I mean, you can't tell people they can't do anything on their property, right?
No.
But when you're asking for an exemption, well, you know, we do have a say-so then. So I'd be curious how this is going to go through the LPA and the commission, just from all the negativity from the residents.
If I think it's like that particular parcel is 20 acres or 22 acres by right, if he could park it, and even with commercial there, like he could have commercial, have a dealership, but by right, if he can use every bit of that 22 acres, you know, you get 10 units an acre by right. So by right, 220 apartments potentially. But my question would be, you know, because this is several different parcels going on, when the Ford dealership or the Audi dealership, right, or Lowe's, they all have green space requirements in their PUDs. And sometimes what you'll see is they'll roll over what they required to have into another parcel. So what I would want to know is, does each one of these parcels meet their green space requirements? And if you look at them, you know, there's very different, I'll kind of show you here, right? There's different amounts of concrete, right? And you would think you're going to max out what you can build if you're going to do a PUD, right? So why does Audi have so much more green than Ford? Did Ford roll some of its green space requirement into this property and or Lowe's, right? So I don't know. That's something I would want to see from the development department is every bit of that 22 acres truly usable? And if we're rolling these other properties into one gigantic PUD, does that now allow for, you know, if it's 30 acres or 40 acres, 300 units?
Yeah, I mean, on calculating, I mean, hopefully city staff, I mean, I will say city staff has done a very good job with researching all the agenda item projects that are coming for development in front of the commission. I feel they've done a lot better in slowing things down instead of it just being, let's rush this through as fast as we can. And that's when things have been overlooked.
Well, it was a different culture, you know, before the last election, right? The goal was as many units as possible.
Yeah, and look what it got us.
Units at all costs. You know, if you got to turn industrial into units, do it.
Yeah.
It's what the state's been pushing for now too.
Yeah.
But that's how we're going to fix affordable housing was the idea.
Yeah, it didn't fix anything.
No, you kicked everybody's rent up, man.
Yeah, everything's expensive now. Everybody's feeling it, I'd imagine. Whether you're a business owner or you're just a normal employee, I mean, things are expensive.
And that's sort of, I was talking to Candace about this, but that's like the double-edged sword of redevelopment and CRAs, is you're trying to make it nicer so it gets redeveloped, but that means, you know, now you're right, if you own the building you're in, your property taxes go up, and if you don't, your rent's going up.
Yeah, yeah, and the CRAs, I mean, in the county and the city, you can look at, they're all different, right? They all have, they're basically like a little subdivision inside of the county, and it's been out of control. I mean, you can even talk the project in Jensen that just sold for almost $10 million. What's going to happen there? It's in the CRA. It's nerve-wracking.
The Riverlight deal, or are you talking a different one?
The one that they've been sharing all over social media. The
Quit
Quit
Messing
Messing
with-
with Jensen. Yeah.
River Light.
Yeah. So that one's
Oh,
still.
they're showing you what they want to do. Marcella Gambler, you'll hear more about her if you win. But
Okay.
she's usually representing developers, and pitching projects.
Just trying to maximize what they can.
Right. Which, how do you balance maximizing the character of this place, right, with what can be on a property by right or within a PUD?
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see, is a commission that isn't just afraid of getting sued, and so they roll over to whatever,
Well, that's where you need the leadership, all right? These guys, they literally represent us. They take our tax money. They decide how they want to spend it, what projects want approved and stuff. And they have to learn how to say no. Or I see some of these projects, I mean, they have to understand how to read site plans, right? That's huge when you see site plans. I mean, we can look at the old Evinrude facility, that project. When I was looking at that site plan, and I don't have it in front of me, but I believe when you pulled into the parking lot at the restaurant, if there was no parking, there was no turnaround either. It didn't loop back around. And you see little stuff like that just, it makes you wonder, I guess. Like, my background is not construction, but I can also read site plans and understand how cars pull into a parking lot and how they're supposed to come out. So I think they need to look more in depth into these projects. And we can go on and on and on, like even the Elizabeth that's across from the courthouse.
Talk to me about that.
I don't even think that one was calculated correctly as far as the parking. And I haven't really dug into it too much, I guess, or spoke to development staff to find out what it should be calculated at, because it is already a done deal, right? I would imagine they're going to have building deadlines, though. I don't know. I'd have to look that up in the clerk of court and see what like a CO deadline or any kind of building application deadline for that was. But I know it wasn't calculated correctly for the parking. And that was the whole half door thing. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, it's just
so people know what you're talking about, because outside of running for commission or being at meetings, you may not know where the Elizabeth is approved to be.
Yeah, so the Elizabeth is on two parcels, and it's 52 apartments across from the courthouse. And I remember speaking.
So you got Civitas right there, right on the right, and then you got the building to the left, like Boots Terry's or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Pusateri is to the right of it, the east of it, if you're looking at it from East Ocean, and it's directly across from the courthouse.
Yep.
Parking already stinks there.
So, what do you know roughly the parking that was supposed to be there?
I know it was a lot more than what they got.
So that particular unit, that just like I was saying, you can roll green space requirements over to the parcel next door. We'll deal with this later. You could do the same thing with parking. So Civitas, like that restaurant that's down there, and 561, the parking for Civitas was supposed to be carried by this part of the project where the Elizabeth is approved. So all in all, you were supposed to have between the two, or with this approval, you should have had carrying some of that parking, something like 120, 130 spots.
So I think I saw 138,
yeah,
but I still don't believe that was even done right.
Right.
I'll be honest with you, Chris, I don't even think that was done right, because when I looked it up, I want to say 138 was the number, and like I said, I don't have it in front of me. They ended up getting away with 60 or 70, and I believe some of that is on street.
They approved it with 70, right?
Yeah, something similar to that number, and some of that was also on-street parking, which I think you're going to see more of that, of them trying to do that, because it's almost like they're trying to appease, the commission in a way, instead of them just telling them no, like, scale your project down, you don't have the parking. And I remember sitting down with a current commissioner that's up there, and he thought it was a great project because there was tandem parking, and I have tandem parking at my house. Well, guess what? I own my house.
Right.
Right? If someone wants to come visit me, you can tandem park all you want.
Right.
If they're going to tandem park, they have to leave their keys. I believe there's going to be a valet person of some sort, is what I was told. Me personally, I wouldn't want to tandem park, and every time I lived there, I guess. That's just my personal view on it.
So, and beyond the parking, that was a unique approval because I think there's one other project that used a little bit of this, but this project heavily leveraged the half unit. This was a big thing with the last election cycle that people were upset about, but the half unit thing. So do you feel comfortable talking about that, or do you want me to?
It's got to go. That's the simplest answer. Like, just because it's a half unit based off of the square footage, right? You're not going to have just one person living there, right?
So by definition, so people know what's even being talked about here, right? So, and I'll pull up that TC Palm article because Lena Ruiz had referenced it. In our attempt to create more affordable housing and have more units per acre beyond what we're allowed to do, right? So by right, like I mentioned with that commercial property, you know, he could have 10 units per acre, right? So that's only, if you have 1 acre, you got 10 units, right? Within our conditional use, especially downtown here, you could have up to 30, right? So that's a big jump. Well, that just wasn't enough. We need more units, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's thinking about the parking, though, or the traffic implications. More units means more affordable, right? So we couldn't get past that, you know, just sticky comp plan and land use regulation. So what we did was redefined what a unit is. And I think like Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky defined the word is, or the, and we just redefined what a thing is.
Yeah, to fit their agenda.
To get more units out of it. So we, even though there were, this is on 1 acre, this project, even though there's like 57 doors, we redefined what a unit was to, you know, so that acre should have only had maximum 27, 28, 29, 30 units. It ended up with 57 doors because we said if a unit is smaller than, and this is where the exact calculation is, we've slightly amended this, but basically we'll reference this. If a unit's smaller than 900 square feet, it's not a unit. It's actually 0.5 unit.
Yeah, half of a unit basically.
Yeah, and if it's 1,100 square feet, we're gonna say it's 0.75 unit.
Yeah.
So ultimately, you could end up with, like, this project had something like 57 doors on an acre.
57 or 52?
Ah, you might be right.
I think it's 52.
I'm gonna go with you. Your memory.
I'm pretty sure it's 52 from what if I can recall correctly. But yeah, 52 units. Like you said, I believe it's 17 without commission, you know, going in front of the board, right? You can do 17 per acre.
Technically, yes. In the urban core, right? 17.
Yeah. And or you can go
in
in
East
front
Stewart
of the board.
anyway. I think that's what we did in our update on East Stewart's form-based code. But I think for the most part, it's like 15
or 17.
Up to 30 with conditional.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've seen other projects. I mean, even a property that I have, I believe an applicant prior to me purchasing it tried to do 30 apartments, and the city shut that down. I think maybe even before it went in front of the commission. Okay. They had already told them no. And then you had these, you know, the commissioners that were just pushing them and pushing them and pushing the apartments. And now we ended up with 52 across from the courthouse that aren't even online yet.
Right. It's approved, but it's just sitting right now.
Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare. And I drive through Confusion Corner quite a bit and past that courthouse, and parking stinks there as it is.
Right.
Wait till you add 52 units.
There's something about, I've noticed this with the others up there, is somehow if there's on-street parking, it seems to be the panacea that will fix all parking problems. Like you just get a pass. As long as there's some on-street parking, somehow you can just park something grossly deficient and the on-street will just sort it out.
Yeah. I mean, development staff tried that with me, and they wanted me to pay for on-street parking on our particular project. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, why would I pay for that? Like, we compared our project size to another location, and it was going to work. And we did go for a parking variance. I think it was like 6 we asked for, though. Mm-hmm. These guys, what they're asking for is just way too much.
Yeah, half.
Yeah, half, right? It blows my mind, and they got it, right? And it's not built yet, and I'd imagine it's going to be built eventually. And that's just one of many. Even the whole commercial to multifamily, that was another thing. They did shut down a project on Central Parkway last fiscal year about it. where they were trying to do another commercial to multifamily zoning change.
They did. They approved that.
I think one got approved and one got shut down.
Which one are you talking about?
I don't know the exact name, but it was on Central Parkway that.
Before I got in? Or when I was in there?
Yeah, I believe you were in there.
Because Sailfish K got approved.
I don't know which one it was.
Yeah.
One got shut down though. I believe they didn't do the commercial to multifamily zoning change, but one did go through and one was a no. I believe. I can't remember exactly. I'd have to pull it up.
So with Sailfish K, it was something like.
I have to pull it up on a map maybe.
But the closest thing to a no we had was Becky.
That one wasn't a no?
So there was 2 readings, right? You go through your 2 readings. The first reading was 3-2. So Becky went, on the no side with me. But that's the closest we got to a no.
So maybe that one still went through. That one went through then.
Yeah.
So it's another one.
Which was mind-boggling for me because that was like the first multifamily project we approved. And Commissioner Rich loved it.
Yeah.
Which that was jarring for me because I thought we were the 2 slow growth guys that got elected. And you're advocating for multifamily. Like, no, hold on. Are you sure? Like, yeah, it's good. As long as we have the drainage is nice and it's no, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
It's not the sidewalks and the bushes that people care about. It's,
You talk to a lot of residents though, and I'm not here to talk bad about anybody, but they feel duped. I can tell you that. Honestly. When you actually talk to the residents out there, they're not happy. We're getting stuff that we don't want.
I wonder if not everybody, meaning other commissioners, though, get outside of their bubble, Here, I'll pull up Sailfish K.
Yeah, I mean, you do wonder if they actually drive around town, if they actually enjoy the quality of life on how it is now. I won't even go to Palm City hardly ever, unless I have to.
Well, I don't think you're going to be able to. I think that's kind of what's coming. Yeah, 3-2 with Becky and Collins dissenting. I think ultimately between Newfield and Palm City, you're putting 4,200 doors out there off of Citrus.
That's off Citrus on the north side, right?
Right. So already Citrus and 714. That's not easy to navigate around there, right? You add another 10,000, 12,000 people. You build a city off of Citrus.
It's literally what it is. I mean, over 4,000 homes is insane.
And then in Hobe Sound, Story, right? That's going to be
like an Abacoa, basically, right. Story.
Another probably 4,000. I don't know the number of units, but something like 4,000.
It's a good amount. I know that.
Right. So you're increasingly going to be sequestered to your borough. Right?
Yeah, you're not going to leave.
Yeah, I'm not going to go to Palm City because I don't want to deal with that, and vice versa.
Yeah, I have friends that live in Jensen and Palm City. They won't cross each other's bridge to come to Stewart anymore.
And like you said, a lot of stuff hasn't even been built yet.
Yeah.
Or, inhabited.
I mean, Costco's a big one.
Right.
That one's not built yet.
Right on that nexus point, like, do you even want to come deal with that traffic?
Yeah. And that's an FDOT road, so they didn't even need a right-hand turn lane for ingress, I guess you would call that. They weren't required because it's an FDOT road, and you can use FDOT right lanes as your turning lane. So you have that project, and then you have the other apartment across the other side on Indian and Canner, and basically those 2 right-hand lanes are going to be useless in a way, especially if you're going to U-turn at the light. You're just going to run right into Costco traffic.
That is tricky there. You're right.
It is.
How are you going to get? Yeah.
That right lane's done for, right? For Costco, it really is. If you're going southbound or northbound on Canner.
I should probably pull that up so people know what you're talking about. The Indigo one.
Yeah, the Indigo, and that's a whole nother thing. They're above the height and stuff for the city, I believe, and that was done through admin variances, which I don't even see how that would get approved. The whole 10% thing, I get it, but if you're doing it over and over and over,
it's just a new rule.
Yeah, where do you draw the line? It should be the first one instead of doing a bunch of admin variances. So that's going to be another major intersection. That's going to be a nightmare for residents in Martin County and the city of Stewart.
And for me, that's why first thing when I got in was let's do a zoning in progress. with the hope that some of this stuff might start coming online, or at least we get more sense of the implications of what we just approved. The 3,000 units that we just approved in 4 years. And for context, for people who don't realize how much that is, the city of Stewart historically has had 17,000 people for a while, 16, 17 for a while. And you just approved with 3,000 units. How many people live in 3,000 units?
A lot.
Yeah.
Double it. And you just
Maybe
double it as
at
a
least 5,000. So that's a pretty dramatic population increase. What's going to come with more cars, more people, more traffic, difficulty parking, even concurrency, like level of service for who's going to your schools now, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just,
a lot.
Yeah. And then it's just like more applications keep coming in.
Yeah. It's like, where do you draw the line? I mean, I can speak on my business. We've talked about extending our hours for being open.
Right. I'm sure you're slammed.
Yeah. Parents, like right now we're 6:30 to 5:30, right? Parents are having a very difficult time coming down Monterey Road or Palm Beach Road to pick their children up by 5:30. So we've talked about extending.
Time out. That wasn't too bad. Never mind. I didn't stop recording it. Okay, so overall, I guess we should talk about who you're running against, or is it not worth it?
So here's how I look at it. Troy McDonald is in office right now, right? I'm running in Group 4.
Yeah, I'll pull up the seats.
And Troy and I have spoke. There's things that I don't always agree with, that he does, and there's things that I do agree with that he does. I think it's, we have a cordial thing. Obviously, I don't agree with all the apartments and the overdevelopment and the variances and the zoning changes. That's something that I don't agree with. But on top of that, he's a realtor. And I'm not here to take jabs at people, but my personal view is, if you are a realtor, you shouldn't sit on the commission. It's as simple as that, because when you vote for these projects, especially when you're voting yes on them for more density, more development, it benefits you, your company, who you work for, who you interact with. We can even talk about financial donations through any campaign that he has done, and a third of the donor money is coming from realtors.
Really?
Absolutely. A third of the donor money is realtors, land planners, developers, contractors. If you're taking that money in, and it is a third of your donation money, let's say you raise $15,000, $20,000, that's a lot of money that you're taking of people that you're willing to represent, and you're drawing a line in the sand, I guess, at that point. So yes, I think a commissioner should not be a realtor.
It does seem like, he's my colleague, so I won't get into it.
No, I understand. And like
you're running
said,
against him, so you can be a little more,
yeah, it's simple as
about
that.
it, but that's funny. He's using his commission picture for the Coldwell Banker site.
Yeah.
Right.
I think he might be at Engel and Volkers. I'm like I said, I'm not 100%
Caldwell.
sure.
Caldwell Banker. Yep.
Caldwell Banker.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a
Realty.
city picture.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Shouldn't be a realtor as a commissioner, whether it's the city or the county, right? Mm-hmm. That's who you're benefiting. I feel like my background, who am I here to benefit? I'm a preschool owner. It's totally different than what most people up there are doing. I know what you do, Eula, Becky, and Campbell Ridge and all those guys, and I don't believe they're realtors. There's only one up there. And I'll be honest with you, there was only 2 people I could have ran against. It was either him or Becky, and I just decided to go with Troy, basically. There's no vendetta there, or it's not like I'm trying to stick a knife in him or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. It's just very simple. We want a different change in a different direction, mm-hmm. and I don't think the residents are getting what they elect officials to do. So if I can take one little piece out of that and give them what they actually want, and what they're putting me there to represent them, right? That's what the voters are doing.
Yep.
So what they want.
How would you articulate, as you perceive it, what they want? What do you feel like residents want?
More apartments.
Versus what's happening.
No more apartments, no more of the exemptions. That's literally what they want. I've talked to some residents, and once again, it depends on what side you're on, right? So when you crawl the Facebook pages, the only businesses that you're going to see or the people that are all for this are the ones that are benefiting directly from it, right? So there's some businesses in downtown. I won't even get into them, but if you crawl the social media and and you start recognizing names, when you have, let's say you have a music venue, we can use that for example, right? You're going to have that owner want more, right? You want the hotel. That's 101 rooms. That's more people that are going to be vacationing here. They're going to patronize your business. But for the people that actually live here, and the people, yeah, we have residents that come and visit and stuff, right? It's a tourist area, but there's no parking. So it really depends on what side of the line you're on who you're going to support. And I'd imagine there's going to be people that don't like what I support with the strong no for certain projects. Yeah, you can't say no to everything, but if they're asking for the big parking exemptions and the big zoning changes and the apartments just ramming them in there as many as they can, the residents don't want it. Go on Facebook. You're going to see everything. And I've been on Facebook for the last 2-3 years just following all the comments and seeing who the key players are. And their voices aren't being heard. They're really not. And you see, it's almost like morale's down as well.
Yeah, it is.
Right? And I see even comments on my own campaign page. What's the point? Why are you doing this? Well, guess what? There's always something that's worth fighting for. Mm-hmm. Even if it's a small piece of it, I still think it's worth standing up to these guys.
And even if you're frustrated with what it is, it could always be worse.
Yeah, it could be.
You just take any resistance down, any critical thinking down, and you just let them do whatever they want. It could be very different.
Yeah, it could be a lot different.
You know, we've had a heritage here of, and I think it gets mischaracterized as just no growth. You know, it's people who are critically looking at is what that's proposed going to benefit. You know, the thing I say is it demonstratively adding to the character of what makes this place, like the brand of Martin County and Stewart? Is it adding to that, or are we cutting at the thing that makes this place special? We've had a heritage of that, and when you lose that, and it's just wide open, you know.
Yeah, Martin County in general, I mean, has and I know I'm born here, right? So I was born in '89. I've lived in Martin County my entire life. I've never left. Mm-hmm. I've been in the city of Stewart for the last 7 or 8 years, but the notion has always been, as a developer, don't come into this town,
right?
Because you're not going to get what you're looking for. And you even look back as a child and stuff, and it was such a strong no vote of all the overdevelopment and overgrowth. And it's almost like the floodgates have been open for the last several years. And it's like, okay, you want that? Well, you're going to get it. There's opposition from the residents, but it's not being heard. And they've violated look at Martin County in general. I mean, the comp plan, the urban service boundary and all that just itching. It gets closer and closer. And, you know, the floodgates are open at this point. So we need people that are willing to stand up to the developers.
It does seem like the county seats are, you know, it's much swampier. It's hard. It's a lot harder to get into the county.
And the county wants to blame the city for a lot of the issues in the traffic. I see it all the time. It's easy when you can just push the blame onto someone else, right?
But real leadership should be taking responsibility, right? You don't want leaders who are pointing at the other one. That's a really bad sign.
Yeah, you're not going to accomplish anything.
You want people who can say, listen, this is the mistakes we made. This is what we need to do better. You know, this is where I dropped the ball.
Yeah.
This is the direction we're going in now, though. We're going to make some changes. Yeah. If it's just, no, that guy, he did it. It's not me.
Yeah, and that's been a big thing, you know, like annexing from the county to the city.
Right.
Why not annex everything at this point, right? Get rid of the county, right?
But the county's playing the same game with the CRAs. They're creating micro cities within the county. What was supposed to protect the rural nature of a county and sprawl was basically overdeveloping the city.
Correct.
But now the county's doing that with CRAs. They're overdeveloping their CRAs or planning to.
Yeah, there was...
so there is no more true rural anything.
No.
Right.
It's urban everywhere.
The county's functioning like cities.
Because how many CRAs are there in the county? You have...
Salerno, Palm City, Hope Sound. Does Hope Sound have one?
Hope Sound does have one.
Hope Sound, right.
Yeah, Palm City,
Stewart's got the
Hopestown,
it's
Stewart,
CRA.
Jensen, Rio.
Jensen, yeah, Rio.
Rio has one. That place is getting ready to rip
Right.
apart.
So if you overdevelop all these places, what, you know,
Yeah, Rio's going to change forever over the next 5 years.
it's sacrilegious to say as a municipal leader, but I'm against CRAs now, man.
Yeah,
I would probably get strung up for it, but you know,
I see the purpose.
not
but,
in the city as much because we're just kind of moving it around to redevelop and you know, but at least in the county.
County CRAs. Out of
County should not
control.
have CRAs, man. You should, if the city's job is to house people and have the commercial, you know, you need to let the county be rural.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what you want, single family houses and stuff. If that's what the goal is, right? And
If we're either going to follow the whole planning thing or we're not. We're not just going to pick and choose where it benefits developers.
correct.
Right.
And where you draw the line
Right.
is what's been one of the challenging things, I think, for the commissioners and staff as well. I mean, it's tough. Tough decisions have to be made at the end of the day.
It's hard for staff because they can't figure out what we want, you know.
Yeah.
We're kind of in between two things now, at least in the city. The
Yeah.
county seems pretty unified in what it's doing.
Yeah. And there's tons in the county that are going through as well. Tons of them.
Yeah, man. The county's
It's a
a
lot.
lot of yellow signs.
A lot of yellow signs, a lot of them, and just getting people to research those as well. And like I said, getting them to show up, getting more involvement. That's one of the things that I'm trying to do is get more people involved. Like, there's been people that have influenced even myself wanting to do this, and it's just standing up for the residents, I guess, and getting involvement.
What I've come to realize more and more is as much as you want people to be involved, for a lot of people, the most involved they can be is just voting for you.
And hoping they make the correct choice.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you know, I wanted a lot of people to come, you want them to come to meetings and you hope that it'll sway the other commissioners. And, you know, sometimes because people are busy, man,
They are.
they don't necessarily know what's going on. They catch, you know, maybe a TC Palm article or, you know, they hear about it from somebody else, but almost the most you can expect is to give them another option and then they vote for that person, you know?
Yeah.
And then you just go in there and go to war for them.
Yeah, I mean, they're electing us, right, to stand up and have their same vision when you're
Right.
campaigning, when you're up there, because they're 4-year terms now. They were 2-year terms.
Which you can get a lot more done.
You can get a lot more done, and it's nice to see term limits.
Yeah.
It'd be great to see them in the county because then we wouldn't have some of the commissioners that are up there right now continually doing the same thing. They send out flyers, how they're going to protect Martin County growth, yet they've been there for 20 years voting for all the development. Or you see the same oak tree get planted 5 times down Jensen Beach Boulevard.
Yes.
It cracks me up, I guess, when you see it.
Are you referring to Dougie Fresh?
Yeah, I did get his flyer in the mail. They've been trying to get rid of him for years, and maybe this time they'll get rid of him once and for all and send him packing.
It does seem like the longer you're in a seat, you have the ability to get entrenched in terms of figuring out who your donors are going to be and, you know, where the levers of power are. And somehow it seems like the average person who lives in a place that you're supposed to represent becomes less and less relevant as you get deeper into the system.
Yeah.
So term limits are good.
Term limits are great. I would imagine most candidates that are running probably support term limits, and there's candidates that are in there that support term limits as well. I mean, the city has term limits now. I believe it's 3-4 year terms.
Yep.
And it's one of those things, whether I do 4 years, 8 or 12 years, you do as much as you can while you're there.
Exactly.
And
I think it does create a sense of urgency too. If you know you're not there forever, you know, your job is not to just be there forever. It's, man, I got to get it done.
Absolutely.
It's go time.
You have time crunch.
Right.
So yeah, that is a big one, having the deadline, just knowing that you have to do X, Y, Z, and that's why you were, you know, voted in. And it is a time crunch. I agree with you on that.
I'm trying to find that.
Which one?
It's a little bit sacrilegious for Doug, but Ohana put it up and it said Doug Smith delivers, and then they put pizzas under it.
What does it say?
Get Doug to hate me.
Tackling the challenge of unprecedented growth to
Right.
protect the way of life
Yes.
that makes Martin special.
Right.
Well, your voting record says otherwise. And you see at the top, leading the fight for our first responders, right? Everybody loves the first responders, right? But they also shouldn't dictate who gets elected in our county commission.
That does seem to be the big one, is
It's huge.
the unions.
It's huge. The Martin County Union is strong. It's very, very strong. That's how officials get elected in Martin County. The city of Stewart, you
To
don't
a lesser
see it.
extent, yeah, the city.
Yeah.
But more so. Let's see if I can find a Hunter.
The city, you won't see the union getting involved like that. And maybe that's why we lose a lot of personnel to Martin County and neighboring Palm Beach and St. Lucie counties.
Oh, how dare you?
We train them.
How dare you?
It's a good one.
Yes.
I got to follow their page.
Jordan's a man. He's going to come on the podcast.
Is he?
Yeah. And probably rail about Bathtub.
Yeah.
There's a lot of frustration about what they did with Bathtub.
I remember going there as a kid, and my grandma and my mom, they would try to find a parking space, and they would fight for a parking space 25 years ago. Imagine what it would have been. Now nobody's ever going to get to enjoy Bathtub Beach.
I don't even know what you do anymore. You know, I know they were trying to do that wall like they do down in Fort Lauderdale or whatever to protect the road.
I mean, that's all you can do at this point, right?
But now that house that's on the corner, which probably shouldn't be there, they should probably just pay whoever lives there the cost of that house and land and just eminent domain it and make it part of Bathtub.
Yeah, no one lives there.
I don't know.
I don't think anyone lives there. If they do,
But at
more
least
power
with
to
that
them.
wall now, that water is just flushing down. And, you know, before there was a lot of water moving through there, but now it hits that concrete wall and it's just flushing down and sucking all that out. And that house is toast.
Absolutely.
They've got to condemn that house, man.
I'm surprised they haven't.
Right.
If it was in the city, I believe code enforcement would have been after them already.
Only if they could put apartments on it.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd probably see it then.
Yeah. Only if it could.
Yeah, more density. Ugh, jeez.
Yeah, man. Bathtub.
That's forever changed.
It's a tough one. Even them putting down all that like concrete and sandbags and just trash over there. It's rough, man. Because with my kids, we call it Mermaid Beach. Like that's our little pocket right there to enjoy.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, metal
Yeah.
stuff and concrete slab pieces and
Yep. At least I got to enjoy it as a kid. I can say that. I have the memories of it. I wish more residents could have the memories of it as well.
True.
But it's gone.
Fix it, Doug.
Well,
So what
Doug
else, man?
delivers.
Why else are you running? You know, what can we? I guess I should hit you with hot issues, right? So
Yeah.
what do you think about what's going on with the river? That's probably the most charged up.
It shouldn't be happening. That's the simplest answer. It should not be happening. And it's continually happening. It's such a large scale. You have to go after somebody at the end of the day to get problems solved, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can look at our governor, and there's a bunch of state representatives that they campaigned on this, right? And
It seems like they drag it out every election cycle.
everyone,
and
every
they're going to
election.
save the river.
Every election cycle. I mean, at the end of the day, we all want clean water.
Right.
I don't, party affiliation aside, because it gets blamed on party affiliation, right? And I've
Yes.
seen that my entire life.
Which it shouldn't.
It should not have anything to do with your party affiliation. We want clean water. Martin County is, I don't know what number it is as far as the wealthiest counties in the state of Florida. It's probably up there, top 10, top 5. Why do we have this issue in our water? It shouldn't exist. That's the simplest answer. So we'll see what happens this election year and stuff, and see, if we can get the state involved, DEP, an environmental attorney has been talked about as well.
You know
on
that's what
city
I
level.
want. You know that's what I want.
Yeah, I know that's what's been pushed and stuff, and Okay, so this is from Ed.
Yeah, Ed's dropping bombs. He's a good man. A lot of people that have positions of influence sort of toe the line, where Ed has somehow remained being a real person. You know, he's not afraid of getting fired. He says it like it is. Which is why he's so valuable, but you just see that water, man, just pouring through.
Yeah, it's coming. I mean,
I would love to see the city be more aggressive in defending her interests. You know, that's why I advocated for an attorney.
it was talked about for quite a while, very, very heavily, and then it's almost like it just stopped.
There's a lot of anxiety that agencies are going to punish, you know, with our submerged land leases like the DEP or I don't even know. Like I started questioning Gail Harrell, and all of a sudden we didn't get, you know, $500,000 of funding for stormwater drainage.
I remember hearing about
There's
that.
stuff like
yeah.
that. Like everybody's afraid that you can't punch up, you can't say anything. You just have to go with it. And hopefully, maybe, just maybe Losum will fix it and the EAA reservoir will fix it.
Yeah.
You know? But my contention, and I said this to you, is until you can't go east, the system needs to be reworked. The whole thing, as long as it's easier to go east and west, it's always going to go east and west. And there's no rush on the projects. Let it take 50 years. Who cares, right? Except for the people who live here. So, you know, for the people who live here, until you can't send the water east, right? Because there's only, reframing it by saying there's only three ways that, besides Losum and, you know, the Corps changing their management, there's only three ways it gets changed. The president, and I don't know Biden, you don't know Biden.
No, I can't call him up on his cell phone.
Right? Nobody around here, right? Nobody donates enough to get that accomplished.
Yeah.
Congress as a whole, because and I didn't fully understand this until I got to sit in on a meeting with the Corps, and they had like their actual operational people in there, not just the suits with the fatigues, but Congress has given them their marching orders. We light them up. You know, they'll probably be here Thursday at the Rivers Coalition meeting for their flogging, right? But it's not them. They are not the ones. They have flexibility, and ultimately they have to pull the trigger. But they've been governed by what to do through Congress, right? So President, Congress has to dramatically change the priorities, and right now the priorities focus on the lake, not this estuary. This estuary is just the outlet.
Yeah.
So, and we can argue about if that's big sugar and what's, you know, who, why, and doesn't matter. It's just what, you know, Congress would have to reorient that, or a federal judge. Those are the three authorities that can change. And getting heard by a federal judge is basically your only possible remedy, save the president or Congress, to actually see anything change in terms of how it's managed here. Yeah. So, you know, suing the Corps or suing DEP, these are charged heavy-duty conversations, but at least having somebody who is on staff that is actively pursuing the interests in terms of, hey, DEP, why are you not South Florida Water Management? Why are you not doing what you should do? You know,
basically holding them accountable.
Holding them accountable.
That's what you need.
And maybe that ends up ultimately, if there is a case, the city, you know, actively pursuing getting in front of a federal judge. But even having somebody that is there to, you know, work within the law to achieve better water quality, less discharges, BMAPs being enforced, whatever, so that the river is as clean as possible.
Yeah.
With the city uniquely being positioned as a peninsula on the river, being the first line of assault for these discharges, where, you know, people will say, well, what about the county? Why isn't the county's got more resources, right? Like when we've talked about it, what about the county? And it's a good point, except that the county has the western ag part of the county. So the city has no other motivation other than clean water. Yeah. There is no other competing interest or donors or anything than just clean water.
That's all we want.
The city is uniquely positioned to have to defend her interests, you know, for clean water. So if you win, I'll be poking you for that up there.
See what happens. I mean, you have to, at the end of the day, a decision has to be made, right? And
just wanting to be proactive instead of, it seems like this passive aggressive thing we do where there's no discharge and it's golf claps and thanking the Corps for all their help and showing up, which is fine. Thank you for caring enough to come to the rally. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, instead of proactively dealing with it in the interim, it's like, then the discharge happens and now these guys have to get abused.
Basically.
It's not right.
Yeah.
Like, instead of us just advocating for our own interests, and like I said to you, you have to almost reframe it in your mind because we're so used to the abuse, right? We're in this dysfunctional relationship, this abusive relationship where we're chronically abused, to where we just kind of say, the average person,
yeah,
you can't do anything. It could probably be worse. We don't want to piss them off. Like, we don't want to be more mad at us. It's this really sick thing. But if you reframed it to where, if in your mind, there's never been a discharge here. We had crystal blue water, seagrass. Like, you could fish through here, minus our own septic to sewer issues. But that aside, right? If you didn't have legacy muck that every time, gets stirred up, if you could actually see the bottom.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And then today, they started discharging 3,600 cubic feet per sec. People would lose
They'd be livid.
their minds because our expectation would be clean water. But over 100 years, we've gotten so used to this abuse and we get mad when the discharges are active. But otherwise, it's like this malaise of, our government overlords are doing it again.
Yeah. Yep.
We don't want to make them mad, though.
I mean, I want to stir the pot, to be honest with you, a little bit.
But at least, I don't want to go to war.
No,
but at least be actively advocating for, and like I've said to you, it's one thing to be a resident that feels frustrated and like, you can't do anything. But if you're going to run for a leadership role, right, that true leadership looks different than whatever the status quo is, especially if it's not working, right? You're leading. You're trying to go in a direction. You should have ideas. You should have hope. You should have vigor for let's do this, let's try this, versus what I've seen a lot of, which is like, that's above my pay grade.
They're very standoffish.
I don't want to get in trouble. Like, I don't want to lose donors. Then that PAC might hate me. And now they're running ads against me.
Which is crazy to think.
That's the world though, politically, right? A lot of that money flows through Tallahassee. And you'll see, in the county election, if people start challenging incumbents, these mailers are coming in, and they're not from this commissioner for that seat. They're from Tallahassee. They're
the direct mailers and stuff.
It comes from
the
those
CPACs
PACs, and there's a lot of industry money that goes into those PACs. So there's an anxiety to upset the wrong industries.
You're probably going to see a lot of that this year. I would imagine this election cycle, you're going to see a lot of mailers coming out.
Yep.
We'll see.
Yeah.
You just got to look at who they're paid from, basically.
It's hard to tell, though, with some of them. It's like
some of them it is.
Some Tallahassee group.
You got to look them up and see who's tied to it, basically.
That's what Gil Smart's doing.
He's researching.
If you ever talked to Gil, Boatwater?
Yeah, I've never talked to him. He was at TC Palm, right? Yeah.
Gil, their whole thing now is the Dirty Money Project, right? So they're trying to figure out just bringing light to where's that money, right? Because
track it,
very few, especially around here, politicians are going to take money directly from Big Sugar.
Yeah.
Right. Even the governor, nobody really wants to, but somehow that money can end up coming through a PAC.
Then you got to see who. Yeah. And
so that's what he's doing, is trying to
difficult.
Demystify it, clarify it, break it up, and show how much of that money went where to who.
Because you don't even know who the original donors were anyway.
Right. Once it hits the super PAC.
Yeah. What do you do? Mm-hmm. You can never get that information.
And the average person doesn't realize that. But that's
true.
But the politicians do.
They do.
They don't want to run against those guys.
I mean, I know that just because.
So even if they're not, waving a certain industry's flag, that they're advocating for them, they certainly don't want to fight them. So that's where you get this sort of middle ground malaise where nothing happens. It's just like status quo continues.
Stagnant. Yeah.
Nobody wants to die on that hill.
Yeah, it's a lot going on with the river. I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't happy.
But hopefully, as soon as humanly possible, it stops.
It'd be nice.
but they got to get 3 feet off the lake, right?
Yeah.
So their target is like 13, and it's at 16. Let me pull it up.
They're gonna
It's over.
dump it.
It's over 16.3. It seems like the level's gone up.
Yeah, that's a high level from and what was it? Was it last year or the fiscal year before that? It was super low.
It's the El Nino, man.
Yeah.
So this year's been
We had a
wetter.
lot of rain.
You had the storms. You had those
Mhm.
storms come in. What was it? I can't think of it.
We've seen all the flooding in the city. What was it? 2 months ago? 3 months ago?
But it soaked all the STAs where the water's supposed to go. So it like soaked the whole state. It soaked all up in Kissimmee, and all that water ended up, everything's wet.
yeah.
So where the water should even be able to get expressed off of the lake, can't because they're full.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot.
So it's like, and instead of doing smaller scale discharges earlier in the year, like how we were getting 500 cubic feet a second. I can't remember when that was.
Now the gates are open.
Like March or something less. I don't know. But now it's wide open, dude.
Yeah.
It's, 1.2 to 1.6 billion gallons a day.
It's a lot of water.
And the problem, there's a lot of problems, but one of the most frustrating things is the oysters, right? You kill all those oyster beds. Those are your filters. Have you ever seen those videos where they'll take, it's like a vertical oyster,
Like where they have
colony.
them in. Yeah.
and they'll put it in a tank of water, and within 15 minutes, it'll go from like brown water to clear. Those oysters are your
Filters, yeah.
filter for your river. So if you want a clean river, with septic tanks and other things,
Yeah.
you need oysters. And what's going to kill those is no salinity there, so they just
Yeah.
get
It's
wasted.
all fresh water coming through,
And
basically.
now you're trying to rebuild that filter again in between the next discharge.
And I know they had some projects where they were adding oyster beds and stuff in the city,
Right.
but it's like not enough. I mean,
and until they
realistically,
get killed
yeah, then they're
by the
dead,
next round, right?
and then we just have oyster shells there and nothing in them. We don't even have grass flats anymore.
And I bring all this up because as running for an elected seat, right? Like you can have a certain passion for more responsible development, right? Like that
Mhm.
can be the main tenet of that's where most of your passion sits around.
Yeah,
But as far as I see it, there's sort of 3, and you'll see this going door to door, right? And especially right now with discharges, right? There's 3 of these pillars as I've subdivided it in my own mind
Mhm.
for what people care about. And it's responsible growth, clean water, right? Doing everything possible to advocate for no discharges, since that's our city goal, especially is 0
Yeah.
in capital letters discharges. And then low taxes. Those 3 things, if you start to transgress one or especially 2,
Mhm.
you should fear, political retribution from residents.
Yeah,
And like right now, a good example of that would be the county. Okay, so
as far as their budget,
raising taxes.
yeah,
Don't do that.
yeah,
Figure it out. Spend less money.
yeah.
Whatever you got to do.
City's done very well on that. I will say that's one thing that those commissioners over the last several years,
They're not messing around.
No,
They're not trying to raise millage.
they're not. They're actually very, very
There's-
good on that.
There's an understanding of that. Okay, but where we, in my opinion, have kind of gone off was
yeah.
the overdevelopment, right? So
Yeah.
maybe we've transgressed one of those 3, and then water. So truly, not just it's an election cycle. Here's some photos and videos of blue-green algae lapping up
Yeah.
on the riverbed. And I will fight for you for discharge. Like, what are we actually trying to tangibly do to make sure we're protecting the water quality here for the quality of life of people to enjoy the river? And like I can't go surf.
Yeah.
Where I like to surf is right by the inlet, and I'm not going to
Don't
do
blame
that
you.
right now. Like my kids, we go to bathtub. That little cutout right there,
Mhm.
that's where we call it Mermaid Beach. That's where we hang.
Yeah.
And they're floating, building castles in the water, and
Yeah.
we can't go there. So for us personally, we are now cut off from like our beach, right? That's not cool.
It's not with what we pay in taxes
Yeah,
around here.
it's
You
not
can't
cool.
even use the beach.
Right. You live
Can't-
here
I mean, look at the
for that
sandbar.
amenity, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
You're cut off from that amenity. That's not cool.
Yeah.
So advocating to make sure that people have access to their,
Yeah.
what makes them have quality of life.
Pay a lot in taxes. We should have access to it. We should have clean water. I mean, I won't even fish in the river, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
I haven't fished there in years.
You should come to the Rivers Coalition
It's
meeting.
on my calendar
Yeah, man.
for Thursday. Thursday
It's
at 11, I believe.
Thursday,
It's
11,
Thursday at
City
11.
Hall.
Yep, I'll be there.
And, I hardly went to those. I maybe went to a handful before.
Same.
Yeah. And if I was there, it was only because there were discharges and I was mad.
You're fired up.
Yeah. Or rallies,
yeah.
we went to the one and it was like 2016 at the beach.
When they had the big toxic letters, I believe.
I'm going to pull it up.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a couple of my friends on Facebook. Yeah.
Evan.
Yes. Okay. So Evan and I are friends.
Yep. I want him to come on here.
Okay.
But C4CW. But
Those were the two big years, 16 and 18.
yeah. Yep.
That,
But you should come so you can see. Maybe I'm not trying to critique you at all, but if that's not your where you feel like you're strongest as one of those pillars, I know you care, so I don't mean to critique.
yeah, no,
you,
but you gotta. When
but
it
I
comes
can
to it, you
talking
gotta
to you.
learn.
I know your
Yes.
passion is for
No, but you should be
development
You should be
and-
good at everything. When it
but I
comes
think
to
if you start getting your toes in that water, it will help. So when assuming you get elected or even going door to door as running,
yeah,
you can better understand and relate.
you're educated in what you're talking about. You understand the entire history.
You're going to
of it.
feel, if you come Thursday, you're going to feel how people feel about it, which is different than even thinking about it. You're going to see people who it's their livelihood,
It
right?
is.
Like if something the Army Corps did made it impossible for you to work, you're going to freak out
Yeah,
because now you can't pay your bills and feed your family.
captains.
Right.
That's huge. I have
Right.
friends that are captains, and I've seen it on Facebook to where they're upset and they honestly don't want to fight anymore. That's what I've seen. I'll be honest with you.
Right.
They said, "What's the point in showing up? What's the point in commenting? What's the point in doing anything with the commission?" I guess.
Yeah.
As a whole. But yeah, I do plan on being there Thursday because I do want to get more educated on that.
And even more than education will be meeting. It's a very unique thing that happens at City Hall there. You have a lot of very important people from all of the sides of it. So you have like Major Bell from the Corps will be there. I would imagine Colonel Booth's going to be there. If I can't guarantee, but I think, Booth's going to be there. Then you have like John Mayle from the county. You have often commissioners are there from the county. And then you have all of these different various stakeholders locally. So Florida Oceanographic, Mark Perry's there, all these different people that are relevant with regard to water quality and environment all in one room, which is unusual.
It's very high energy.
Once a month. So you have a lot of expertise and passion and policymakers and even the guys pulling the trigger, and everybody's talking and they're trying to get and that consistency of once a month that happens has been a huge shield. When the Corps knows that they're going to have to come next month, they're at least thinking about it, right? You don't necessarily have that on the West Coast even. It's
Yeah.
a very special thing that these people are consistently gathering, not just when there's a crisis, but trying to work diplomatically to achieve an objective. It's very cool.
So they've been meeting once a month for the last.
I don't even know, probably since before 26. I mean, for a long time.
Wow.
Long time. And that is a big part of why, this is my opinion, why we haven't had discharges either. Why the within the LOSUM process, when the stakeholders are all being weighed out, you have a unified voice, right, coming out of Stewart, out of Martin County, for what we want our objectives to be that are well articulated to be able to be factored into what LOSUM is even going to be. Like, if you have random stakeholders, even in a place that aren't solidified and congealed with even what they want, it's not as easy to like line item those into the operational management. But this coast, the City of Stewart, Rivers Coalition was a big part in making sure that from a policy standpoint of what even went into LOSUM was this.
Yeah.
So that group of people it would be good to just talk to and understand and meet and,
Yeah.
just fill up your tank with that, man.
Yeah, no, I
From
plan on
water
coming
quality.
Thursday. It's on my calendar. As soon as I saw it come up, I was like, boom,
Ding.
add it. Yep.
I would imagine it's going to be a busy meeting.
I imagine it's going to be very busy. It's going to be very
Spicy.
high. Yeah, it's going to
Yeah.
be high energy. People that are very outspoken, that are upset. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of energy in that room, I'd imagine, on Thursday. But yeah, I'll be there at 11.
And my hope is that they're, as frustrated as everybody is with the core, that we're not just blaming the core, right?
Yeah.
If you want to leverage actual change, something to happen, you really kind of need to point it at your policymakers, man. Your
Yeah.
local municipal policymakers, and start holding their feet to the fire for what you want to see, right? Like, do you want them to engage with DEP in the core?
Absolutely.
No, I'm saying though, like legally, do you want there to be more of an aggressive, overt, or would you, as a municipality, prefer more of a diplomatic, and when push comes to shove, you're going to roll over? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do you want locally?
Being diplomatic hasn't worked, has it?
In some ways, yes, right?
Not fully.
Which I didn't fully understand until
Mm-hmm.
I ran. Like, I came in as a normal person with unlimited understanding of the diplomacy of it, and I thought, these guys are attacking us. Stop them, fight them, destroy
Yeah.
them. But the diplomacy within even the LOSUM process has LORS 08 versus LOSUM will be different. And then when LOSUM gets, I think it's like 3 years or 2 years,
Before
you
it
kind of
goes in.
you revisit it, right? And so the goal should be that, like LORS to LOSUM. And LOSUM, you're talking about health and human safety. Harmful algae blooms being mentioned.
It's not good.
Well, even that it's mentioned. So previous to LOSUM, in that discussion,
Mm-hmm.
this estuary, from their standpoint and management, was purely an outlet valve. None of the biodiversity, none of the harmful algae blooms didn't exist in their
Mm-hmm.
schedule. It wasn't even something to be considered against. All of their criteria were around managing lake levels,
Yeah. The water. Yeah.
performance for sugar and other ag, navigability of the waterway.
Yeah.
These are all things that we're weighing out, not
Yeah. Not our water
the
quality.
estuary.
Yes.
Right. So now that even being a part of the conversation is kind of revolutionary.
It is huge.
And that came through diplomacy, right? So being able to say, hey, consider the health and human safety. That was Brian Mast was a big part of pushing for that. Like that, that's diplomacy. But also you should have sometimes a threat of, not that the Corps cares necessarily about,
Yeah.
but sometimes a threat of knowing that it could escalate does help with diplomacy as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you know that somebody's going to punch you in the face, you're not just going to dominate them. Maybe let's talk a little bit more. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. No, I get it.
So having capability for both, and something brewing in the background as well.
Yeah. You can't show all your cards, I guess.
Right.
You start easy and,
But I would think
work your way
in the
out.
same way that the Rivers Coalition existing gives more leverage for the quality of life and the considerations of the people here, so too having like an environmental attorney working in the background,
Mhm.
looking at the legality of things, calling DEP saying, hey, you need to check with that BMAP or this or that, or about,
Yeah.
having that happening in the background too, maybe has another layer of, we need to consider Stewart. Stewart's not just this invisible outlet over here.
You can't just flush the toilet when you want,
Right.
basically.
Right. We got to factor all this in because these guys have, lawyers working for them too. Yeah. Let's figure it out.
Yeah. Be nice to solve the issue once and for all.
I know.
Tell you
I was asking you what you think about it, and I just start ranting.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm
But-
here to learn. Honestly, it's a lot to take in, and I'm embracing every part of it.
And then taxes from a financial what are your thoughts on money, taxes? Because that's that other pillar I mentioned, right?
Yeah, well, you can't write too many checks you can't cash, right? Like our federal government. You can't just keep doing it and expecting a different result. But no, the city's done a very good job with keeping taxes in check. I will say that. I haven't like fully looked at the budget and the departments and stuff, but I think they've done a good job from that. Like I said, compared to the county, I mean, the county budget goes up every single year.
Yeah, so this was in 2016. See, that's what's frustrating for people, right? That was in 2016. Everybody's in that frame of mind, right?
Yeah, that was the big toxic signs on the beach.
Yeah,
And
I can't remember what letter I was in, but it was Send It South.
Yeah, 16 and 18 were the worst years.
Right, and now that little girl's 8 years older now. You know what I mean? These people are all older, and they're still dealing with the same thing. That's a frustration.
Absolutely.
And like I said, you got boat captains, you got people, even more than just my ability to frolic at Bathtub Beach. It's people who can't work. Or
Exactly.
fish.
This is their livelihood. How do you fish in the river like that? You don't.
You don't.
You lose your business. You lose your house.
Mm-hmm.
You lose everything, basically. That's huge.
Yeah, right. This was Marco Rubio talking about CEP. So CERP and CEPP, right? That's that comprehensive Everglades restoration.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go through WRDA, right? So the way it interacts with Congress is these changes and projects and recommendations go through WRDA. But not to talk too much about water, you should probably talk about what your talking points are.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody wants the water, right?
It's just hot right now, man.
It is hot, and it just started because, like you said, the dumps are coming. So it's going to fire people up and stuff.
Yep.
I also don't want to be one of those commissioners that tailcoat off of that just to get in there, right?
True.
And then do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So I've seen that year after year as well. And we've had some commissioners that were very, very vocal for water quality, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe not other things, but water quality was huge for them. But I don't want to be the one that just, like I said, tailcoats off. Yeah, just use and abuse it just to get in office and then, boom, throw your hands up and just say, oh, we can't do it. Yeah, like you just got to keep going, I guess. And yeah, I think those issues are huge. The development, the water, taxes, that seems like what...
Do you see other, are there other issues that you feel like really need to be vocalized and addressed besides what I think is important?
No, I mean, just giving the residents what they want. That's huge to me because I've been in that same position. Mm-hmm. I've been to meetings to where I speak out against projects where applicants have lied on them, straight up lied on the application. And I've called it out, whether it was in person meeting with somebody at the city level, whether I talk to a commissioner, because I've never been the one, like, I don't really want my face in the public, I'll be honest with you. So that was always difficult for me.
You're picking the wrong job.
Well, yeah, now I'm in it, right? So yeah. I'm in it to win it at this point.
Yep.
But I can talk in past prior years. I always like to stay behind the scenes because I didn't want to involve like my business, my family. And now that I've had their blessing to basically, the gate's wide open.
Yep.
They appreciate what I'm doing. And that was big for me. I had to ask them for permission. My sisters, my brother, my mom, and they're all fired up for it. My friends and family, they want to see someone in there maybe that they can relate to. I'm a local. I'm from here. I'm invested in the city, right? Pretty heavily. We have businesses in here. My house is in the city.
Yeah, you're double. You're like me.
We're here, yeah, right?
I'm never leaving.
Yeah, I'm never leaving. I literally was born in Martin County and I never left.
Yep.
I think I've lived in 4 places in Martin County in my entire life. So I don't really move around too often. So I plan on being here for a while. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I teach the next generation already on a preschool level. So you know, these guys are there as well. That's literally who we're fighting for, right?
Kids,
One day I'm
yep.
not going to be here,
Yep.
but you know, we have other generations, and even prior to me getting involved, there's people that have fought very, very hard for it, and some of them might be rolling around in their grave with what's happened around the city and the county in general.
I think that's a good point to talk about.
what legacies
is-
probably.
Often, right? There's a war. If there's two different sides to a thing, whether a project should be approved or not,
Mm-hmm.
it can ultimately boil down to, you know, everybody's kids versus that developer's kids,
Yeah,
right? He's fighting for their best interest, you know, and then not that there has to be those two sides, but often
Yeah.
it seems like when I've talked to them, you know, their kids, their legacy, like they're trying to set their families up often.
yeah,
And I'm thinking about, man, are my kids going to be able to drive, park, live here?
can't afford it. I can tell you that.
You know, right. Like it,
Yeah.
what is their best interest? And sometimes those two things are at odds, right? And if they land that deal, that's $30-40 million benefit there for their family,
Yeah,
but at the expense potentially of
it affects everybody that lives
the
here.
quality of life of the people and all the families, and, you know,
It's a lot going on. Honestly,
and that's kind of what the war is.
Mhm.
Sometimes is for legacy.
Yeah, and I can speak like I said, even off. I mean, my project obviously we're trying to build a new preschool, right?
Where are you?
So it's across from Stewart Police Department, right
Got it.
next to we're east of Salvation Army.
Got it.
You know how scared I was to go for that? I was scared to death because I was like, well, this commission's going to shut me down.
Why?
They don't that was my thought process, right? Like to me, doing a variance is a big deal, right? And they've been slung around left and right with zoning changes and variances. So I compared what I was doing to other projects, and I'm just like, yeah, they're not going to go for this. Why would they? It's in a residential neighborhood. Yes, it was zoned for offices and all that stuff, but I was nervous, very, very nervous, and I did. I went through the process and met with the commissioners, and I didn't have any bad feedback.
No, that's because what you're trying to accomplish is an antagonistic to how.
But I was still nervous
Yeah.
because I didn't have the big wigs behind me, right?
Right.
I didn't go there with an attorney. I didn't go there with a land planner.
Right.
I had an architect that was my neighbor and myself. That was it. I learned a lot. I will tell you that. I learned a lot throughout the process.
I'll tell you who you should have hired.
Even my house, I had to do a variance for because it was minimum 2-story, and I had to do a variance for a single-story house and to not have a public courtyard. As far as I know, the city's still looking into my refund. I haven't asked about it in many, many years, but I was supposed to get a refund or something from the city. It was talked about, and never heard anything else, so I never bothered. But I do have a house now, so I guess that's what matters, right? Even though property taxes are insane.
That's what happens when you redevelop, man. You keep redeveloping and keep redeveloping.
But I will say the insurance is the homeowner's insurance is much cheaper by having it, so I guess it makes up for it.
I was looking for Gunster.
It's a guaranteed win, though, huh? If you if they're in your back pocket.
Well, they have specialized. Gunster has done a good job of specializing in Florida, where like that's their tagline. Gunster is Florida's law firm for business, right?
They're everywhere.
So where you have maybe other corporate law firms that trying to find Bob. He's probably down here somewhere.
I will tell you, there was someone that advised me not to go against Gunster for anything, for any projects. I will tell you. They
They're
advised me
very-
it wouldn't end well.
They're very powerful, right? Look, I'm on
Yeah.
page 12 of lawyers, right? So attorneys
12.
and staff. I'm on the 12th page of lawyers.
Wow.
Trying to find Bob, but he's like your local.
Yeah,
I call him a wizard.
And I've spoke to him, I think once or twice
Jeez.
maybe, at a city meeting. I've heard comments sometimes when I've given public comment of people in the background.
I actually asked him to come on here. There he is. Just because I thought it would be kind of surprising for people.
Yeah.
But I like he doesn't want his face out there, which he's probably mortified right now. But
Sorry, Bob.
it's kind of like no win. You
Yeah.
know, like you just want to do your job, go home.
And he's doing his job.
Right.
Honestly, he is doing his job, right? His job is obviously to represent applicants. That's what he gets paid to do.
Yeah.
That's what attorneys get paid to do. I mean, I've hired attorneys myself before.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to know the Florida state statutes and, ordinances, especially if they're in land development and stuff like that, land use attorneys. They should know it very, very, very well, in my opinion.
I thought it would be interesting to kind of get his perspective on it, because you see what happens at the meetings, right? You have the back and forth between residents and, he's representing the applicants, and then commissioners have questions, but rarely you never really hear, what is your thought? I mean,
his personal thoughts or business thoughts? I mean, they're going to be different. They are going to be different because he does live and work here, right?
Right. And you have to represent who hires you.
Correct.
Gosh.
So he's caught in the crosshairs. Yes. He really is. Whether or not he would admit it, whether on record or off record,
right.
You live here. I'm assuming he has kids maybe. It's going to affect your children on these projects as well.
Right.
But if you're getting paid and
I think his wife even works over by Civitas, one of those 2-story, that little white one by the French restaurant, kind of over by, yeah.
It's a catch-22. It really is. It's just like I can look at my own business, right? Yeah, okay, we can say all these people moving here, they have kids, and I'm going to be full. But at the end of the day, I don't need more.
And there's a difference too between how I feel about where I live and maybe professionally, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I would be more accurately expressed if I lived in Stewart but worked in Palm Beach, right? You want Palm Beach to blow up.
Absolutely.
But I want to come back to a cozy little beach town.
Yeah.
But I want to live close to where I work. So I'm just down the street. So I'd rather just have a more chill practice. I'm sure you'd probably have more chill.
Yeah, and
school and just have a nice town.
If we're talking preschool in general, there's wait lists everywhere.
Yeah,
because they can't handle it.
Right, because you have to have both mom and dad working to be able to afford to live.
Preschool's expensive.
Right.
We're $330 a week for an infant, and we lose money on that every week.
Wow.
Yeah, $330 a week. And that's if it's self-pay.
How does that work from a business standpoint in terms of expenses for staff primarily?
When you do the math, that classroom is open, I think 52.5 hours a week. So you do the math, it's a 1-to-4 ratio. It comes out to $25 an hour by the time you pay an employee and insurance.
Yeah, it's probably impossible to find people.
Correct.
Right.
And they're out there.
You have to be really selective because it's people's kids.
Yeah.
So you can't just hire somebody for a lower rate.
Not really.
Yeah.
And there are schools out there that do that.
But that's going to blow up in your face worse later, even if you save money short term.
Typically, yeah.
Right.
And what we spend more on nowadays is professional development, just getting people up to speed on preschool because it's totally different from parenting, right?
And I'm sure there's all kinds of state regulations and
there are. So we're licensed from the Department of Children and Families.
Exactly.
DCF licenses us.
Right.
We have our own issues in our industry. I can tell you that. That it'd be cool to be an advocate for that, but I'm going a different direction, I guess.
Same. I could fight for chiropractic. Yeah.
Yeah. If you've been doing it long enough, you know what the issues are, right?
Right.
Same thing in our industry. We know what the issues are.
For me personally, I feel like I can have a greater impact on where I live in the municipal government, and that will more directly impact my quality of life and my family's quality of life than going to Tallahassee to fight chiropractic battles.
Yeah, you got to pick and choose, right? You only have so many hours in the day, and you have to target what you want to target, I guess.
Yeah, to me that's the more impactful energy.
Yeah, DCF always wants to employ me, I will tell you that.
Really?
Yeah, they would love to hire me.
For what? To do what?
As an inspector. like, inspect preschools, regulate them. I would love to. I love talking with DCF, our regional director. I love bouncing ideas back and forth. I think it should be good communication because those guys aren't my enemy, right? They're not, but there's some schools that look at them as their enemy because they're enforcing, a state statute or whatever.
A standard.
I feel like I know the rule book better than DCF inspectors.
I believe that.
That's what I do. I mean, my job is to do research and find out the truth. And I also run classrooms too. So I know what it's like.
I've noticed that about you in my interactions with you is how well you research and how much you kind of sandbag a little bit.
Yeah.
Somebody wouldn't necessarily know that about you until you start talking about a particular thing.
How much I research something.
Right.
Yeah.
Where did that capacity come from? Or how do you intend to, if you win, leverage that for the city's benefit?
So I guess if I look back from my childhood, I've always loved to, I like to use the word argue, I guess, defend myself verbally,
Yeah.
right? I've always believed in standing up for what's right. I'm a questioner as well, right? So if something doesn't sound right, well, guess what? I'm going to question you on it, and I want the facts. Give me something, right? Make it believable at least. I tell people, 4 and 5 year olds, like, give me a good story at least, right? Tell me what happened, or whatever the case is. But yes, I'm a very good researcher. I'm a good computer person, and as far as the computer stuff, I mean, that comes from a very early age. I actually don't care for technology, even though I'm very good with it. I try to stay as far away from technology as possible outside of work. But yes, I'm a good researcher. I love public records. If you can find it.
I know we desperately need that, more of that. Not that there's a deficiency of it, not to accuse any of the other commissioners, but I would love to have more questioning, more digging, so that we can really try to figure out what's going on with the limited amount of time we have, and questions and banter back and forth to try to make a good decision.
Yeah.
And, often there's not a lot of depth to even, bounce off of.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, actually, what are you talking about? Can we go into that? Like, what do you, Bob?
Nobody, I'll be honest with you. I've been down there.
Right.
I don't see a lot of research being done, right? I really don't. And in order to be a researcher, you have to be a computer person. If you're not a computer person, your life's going to be difficult.
In the current era, right. If you cannot.
And I'm kind of in that in between. I'm 34 years old for one.
Right.
So I got to grow up with the younger generation, and I got to grow up with the older generation. I type 140 words a minute. I'm very, very fast on a computer. I'll run 2-3 monitors at a time. I can't even use a chiclet keyboard, I call it. I'll burn the thing up. It's too loud and too intense when I start typing. So Control F is your best friend. Knowing keyboard shortcuts.
What is Control F, man?
Control F is you're going to search a document.
See.
Whether it's a PDF or a web page. Also, you can even get into Google searches, right? So I know certain search criteria that I can look for indexed pages. I can crawl a website and find things that have been indexed through a bot, basically. So I have a pretty good computer background, I guess.
What does that mean?
Basically, if a bot's crawled a web page before, it'll index it. Even if they delete it, you can still get it. It's basically an archive of the internet.
Right.
Once you post something online,
It's there.
It doesn't go away. Now, knowing how to get the information.
Right. How do you pull it up once it's been deleted?
Well, there's certain web pages and stuff that'll have indexed stuff.
Yep.
Or you can even manipulate Google search engines or Bing search engines. Those are, typically the top two. But you can manipulate search engines
To look for the past.
to look for specific keywords.
Got it.
Just anything specific. Image, you can do image, searching and stuff. I wish I could educate more on that.
Yep.
You kind of have to have just a background of wanting to know more, right? You can't just take something at face value. Say you go to a website.
Yeah, I agree. That's a root of what makes it.
Yeah.
Right. We all have superpowers.
Yeah, and anything that's public record. Property appraiser is my best friend. Sunbiz, clerk of court, right? And you don't just have clerk of court, you have official records as well as, other stuff. And most people don't even know how to use official records. I think in Martin County it goes back to 1986, I could Could be wrong on that, but you're basically like the FBI, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a whole picture. Like, I'm not just background searching the agenda item. I'm looking up who's tied to it, who's dating who's married to who might be a business partner. There's a lot that goes into it. You got LinkedIn, you got Facebook. Some people try to hide from you as well, but there's ways to get it, right? You can I don't know how much detail I should go into, I guess, right? But like, you can pull IP addresses.
You're going to be a nightmare for these guys.
Probably. You can pull IP addresses off of tiny URLs and stuff. Like, so there's so many different ways to get information on people, I guess.
But it's what we should want. We should want transparency in all of it. That should be the goal.
Yeah.
If things are happening in the dark, if there's obfuscation, and it's not good.
So here's how I look at it.
You don't hide when you're doing good.
You don't. So here's how I look at it, because I've always been a guy in the background, right? So everybody's always wondering, like, who's this guy? He just announced it, blah, blah, blah. And I've always been in the background, but, well, now I'm coming forward. So I can't really hide in the background anymore. I don't feel like I have anything to hide. I don't have any dirt on me per se. But now that I'm in the public's eye, anything I have to research, I'm going to find everything I can in my powers. Whether that's through a contact that I have, because I've had multiple people in certain departments, whether it's the city, county, state level, that have reached out to me and stuff. So I also think it's protecting those people as well that support the cause.
And when you do represent a certain thing, you will have people that will help you.
But you have to protect
them. They don't want to be their name anywhere. They don't want to get in trouble. But
that was me. I was the guy in the background that I love doing research, and then I just pass it on to the right person. Mm-hmm. And they're like, wow, how'd you get that information?
I dig.
Yeah, how'd you find it? And I've always liked that, thing about me, I guess, the persona, because I've always wanted to be like, oh, well, who's making those decisions? And they're wondering who it is. Mm-hmm. Well, could have been me.
I think that's who should be involved in government.
Yeah.
It seems kind of common sense, right? If you're looking at a 600-page document, you want that person who can audit.
Control F.
You are the audit for the residents. There should be at least one guy on your commission that's like that.
There should be. They should be very, very good.
And then it's like, let's talk about that. Yeah. Tell me more about.
Yeah, basically. And I'm a very, very good reader. I'm a good researcher. Mm-hmm. I'm not even an attorney, but I have no problem researching Florida state statutes and land development codes and interpret. Because at the end of the day, we all have access to the same information, right? You and I can get anything that we want. You have to know how to get it.
Yes.
Right? We're all going to interpret it the same once we have it. And you might have some variations, right? But we can read a sentence and interpret it different ways. But at least we got the information, I guess. That's what I'm getting at, is being able to research. And I mean, I've talked and stuff, and it's hard doing it from a cell phone. I want to go down to a city commission meeting, and I want to set up my own table. I want 2 or 3 monitors. If I was on a computer, I'd feel sorry for anybody that comes in front of the commission.
Listen, if you get up there, I got no problem,
if you sat me in the corner,
for you to have a computer, man.
Absolutely. If you sat me in the corner by that water fountain machine, right? And I actually had a desk with a microphone, and I have a keyboard, not just one monitor. I need 2 or 3, right? You set your mouse up. Man. Listen, you set your mouse up to like 5,000 DPI. I flick the wrist and it goes to the 3rd monitor. That's what you need. You need somebody like that. You should see me on a computer, I guess, one day.
So are you going to be able to fend off the offers from, Gunster, I guess?
So I've been asked that as well.
We need you to come work for us.
Right? Here's how I look at it. I can't be bought and paid for.
There you go.
I go to work every day, right? I open the preschools. I don't care about money, I guess, right? Money has never motivated me. Some people appreciate it, some people don't. Like, whether it's my friends or family or whatnot, you ask anybody. I'm just a normal everyday person, right? And it doesn't motivate me. I love what I do for work. I love inspiring, children, teaching. I'll teach anything. If someone's willing to learn, I'll teach you how to cook. I'll teach you how to juggle. Whatever you want to learn, I can teach someone. So it's all about education with me. But yeah, I can't be bought and paid for.
Good.
Right? I mean, I'm not a fancy person.
The other sort of danger, the other pitfall, the other caution that I've noticed is the high school mentality. It's like the club. Is you'll see, it really reminds me of high school, is there's like a clique, there's like an unspoken norm of what you can say and can't say and who you can say it about, and towing the line and that whole thing, which I don't think you're going to have a problem with, but it does seem like people can easily get sort of absorbed into it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I also, I mean, if we touch base on that.
Because you start off a normal person, and then all of a sudden you start learning more, you get more of the facts about what happened with this and that, and then all of a sudden it seems like you've been co-opted into that thing. You know, that's
where you want to be a part of them.
Yeah, that somehow is different than the average person who's there saying, "Hey, please don't do this," or, you know, have you considered that? And there's this, it can be this sense of like, we know better. We are we are the anointed. We are the club.
I mean, if we're talking about the same 50 people that obviously have controlled the city for, I mean, that's what it is. It's probably 50 people, maybe 100. I don't know. As far as them coming, right? It's one of those things. They're all friends.
Right.
Business, relationships, or acquaintances, right? So I'm sure, you know, you and I probably have a lot of mutual friends down the line somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's what happens is they influence you, right? And almost like they expect you to give them what they want.
True.
Based off of whatever history. Like, hey, you take care of me and I'm going to take care of you kind of thing.
Right.
Or it could be an ego thing. I've seen that as well. Some people like being out in the public. They like the attention. Me, I despise of all of that. I don't want any attention, but obviously with me choosing to do this, I'm going to get attention whether it's good or bad. I think, you know, dealing with it is where it's going to be unique because, you know, I don't see myself being swayed by people because when you're up there, it's the 25,000 residents that matter.
Right.
Right?
I mean, that's what you've been hired to do.
Correct. Yeah. That's what they elected me to do.
Not advocate for whatever else, the chamber or, you know, whatever other party.
And I have friends that are realtors. I have friends that are contractors. I have
Well,
friends that are attorneys.
This is the thing with the realtors. I think there's a false assumption that realtors are all pro-growth.
They're not.
And so, like Shannon Anderson, I've had good conversations with. Mm-hmm. Who's like, you want to talk about successful real estate people? Shannon Anderson's crushing. You
Absolutely.
know what I mean? Like
the Anderson Group.
Yeah, and even when I went to the, so you'll see the Martin County Board of Realtors will interview you, and I could tell when I went in that room, it was an awkward room.
Really?
Yeah.
Divided?
You could tell. You're sitting in front of like 100 faces, you know, and there's somebody who's kind of walking you through that interview. But I'm being honest. Like, listen, if we continue to do what we're doing, we're going to destroy the place why this place is special. Like, sell Port St. Lucie. If you just want 1 million units, sell it up there. You know, I'm like, so I'm saying like it is. You're not going to be able to drive here. You guys all live here. You know, like we got to do it smart. We got to, you know, we can't just have completely unfettered units.
Yeah.
And you could see there were some people that were like, yeah. You know, the light bulb's going on like, yeah, yes. Even though we're not supposed to believe this. And then you see the other one's like, shh.
You know why? Because it's one of those things. It's anytime you have tight knit groups, right? You don't want to be ousted. Right. So if you're one of those that's going against the majority, what do you think is going to happen to you?
Sure.
Do you think they're going to want to work with you on closings? No.
Right.
And these are my personal views on that. But if someone is going against you, and let's say the majority are 80% at the realtors that want it. I'm just throwing a number out. It's 80%. That 20% that doesn't want it,
right?
Guess what? They're going to have a very tough time doing business with any other colleague in that room. I mean, that's the reality of it, right?
Yeah. It's a club too, I'm sure.
You should, I need to send you a picture or something. There's a map that hangs at the shop. It's probably 8 foot tall by, I don't know, 6 to 8 foot, right? And you can just look at the map and you look at the county line from St. Lucie and Martin. It's amazing. This
Yeah, it
map
is
is from
too.
the 80s.
Yeah, it is too.
And it's a big, big map. This was when Gents Beach Boulevard was Commercial Street. The Roosevelt Bridge wasn't there yet, the big Roosevelt. You should really check the map out. It hangs in our shop, and it's probably going to be coming to my house in my spare bedroom for this political run because it's motivation for me. And that's what people have fought for, to save.
I mean, even today, right? You go, if you Google Map, even now, right?
See, I've never actually Google mapped it and zoomed out a good bit.
Dude. But in that meeting with Martin County Board of Realtors, like I heard after the fact that it was contentious over me, because a lot of them are sort of forced to believe that anybody who is responsible growth, slower growth,
Is against them.
is against business. That's this weird straw man that's been the case in the past. Is anybody who is pushing back at all is somehow an anti-business agitator. Is the line.
It's amazing.
But you don't want to kill the golden goose. You don't want to kill your business by trying to overdevelop.
Yeah.
Like the thing that makes your place special is what makes it special.
Well, you're talking about Shannon Anderson in particular, right? I don't believe Shannon Anderson is doing multifamily developments, is he?
No.
But there are some realtors, I'm not even going to name, you know who they are.
Yeah.
76 Golf World, if anybody wants to look that project up.
But who's moving to Martin County for? I'm sure some people are, but that's not the main brand of Martin County.
We're unique.
Right. So you should want to double down on and deepen what makes your brand special. I'm Upper Cervical Spine and Wellness Center. I'm the upper neck guy. Right? I could do a lot of things, but the thing that makes me unique and that I'm going to be the best at in my area is that. And that's who's coming to me, right? If I start muddying that up and maybe I want to do this other thing and then I just change the name to like Collins Chiropractic, there's going to be people I'm going to lose. I might kill my business, I may do, I don't know, but why kill the golden goose? Like you're great at a thing, do a thing, be that thing.
Yeah.
Don't try to be like the other chiropractor. Don't try to be West Palm Beach. Don't try to be Port St. Lucie.
Don't try to do it all.
Just be what you are and be the best at you.
I agree. It's
golf clap. So let's go. Yeah, let's go Port St. Lucie. This is so good. If you haven't looked at this in a while, right?
Jeez.
See the difference?
Oh, yeah.
The line, baby.
That's what people are fighting for, though. Honestly. And when you look back over the last 100 years, that's what they fought for.
Look at that. So when you're talking about the Martin County difference, right?
That's it.
Sometimes you just less words, more visual. Right? And they're going to go west.
Yeah.
They're going to do that all the way out west, man. They're not done. Look, that's the stuff coming online out there, right? They're starting to carve it out there. And who knows where they're at now. This is probably however many years old. But look.
It's probably a year, but, a lot's changed in a year.
You expect it right on the water, right? But look at out west, how much different we are. Until Citrus gets built up.
Yeah.
And then there'll be a city there of 12,000 people, which is very much like what's north.
We don't even have the infrastructure.
No.
You look at it from everything.
I'm trying to figure out how do you put that many people... How do you put that many people on Citrus?
It's a
It's
lot.
one road, man. And I don't know how many of them are going north to get on Becker, but I'd imagine a lot of them are coming south.
Coming from every direction they can at this point.
And they're going to be coming into the city, coming through Palm City, right? If you got 10,000, 12,000 people, you can imagine in your fantasy planner world that they're all just going to stay there. They don't need cars. We'll do a mixed use, walkable community, and nobody will ever leave. No, man, they're coming from New York.
Yeah.
They're bringing their cars, and they're gonna drive to Jensen and Stewart, and
people like transportation.
Right.
Honestly, I don't know how every American feels on this, but we like being in control, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but I'm a small business owner because I'm in control of my own destiny.
it's human nature, right? Everybody wants to control.
I want to drive the car. I want to drive the bike. Whatever modes of transportation you're using, I know personally speaking, I like to be in control of the vehicle that I'm in.
Right.
Right. I mean, I'm not on the train.
And the idea that somehow you're going to make it impossible for people to drive as a way of incentivizing them away from that.
Well, then you're going to be forced into it being urban, right? And then
Right.
you're going to be you're literally forcing residents into that to where that's what they're pushing is for it to be very, very urban. You live and you work, and you never basically leave downtown.
Right. That's a goal.
That's
your
what's
borough.
going to happen if they keep it up, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have one-way streets eventually, especially in my neighborhood I live in.
That's been talked about a lot.
It's been talked about a lot. My neighborhood for pass-through is amazing. Anytime a road's shut down,
You can zip around.
they blow through stop signs. And listen, the City of Stuart Police Department is so overwhelmed. Look at Canner and US 1, how many people run that red light. Yeah, a lot. I mean, you look at everything. Car
Especially-
insurance is going to go up.
Especially as we keep annexing, right? You're spread out. So where the city of Stuart would just be on the peninsula, right now with the annexations, you have this large diamond,
Which is very weird.
north and south. So they have to sprawl out your police force.
Yeah, to provide. And don't get me wrong, they do a great job. I actually did the Citizens Police Academy and stuff and got to see a
They're
lot.
awesome. Yeah.
Amazing.
But you
I
put a
love
lot
the
of pressure
officers.
on them to do a lot in terms
Yeah.
of manpower.
And they do pretty well. I mean, I've had to call for a fender bender before, and I think it took 45 minutes in a parking lot. That might have been an off day, but typically the response time in the city, because I've had to call them out to the school before for custody stuff or whatnot, but
It's quick.
they're fast.
Yeah, man.
For as little as what we have and what they have to patrol, it's amazing. And I think the guys that do work for the city care very deeply.
Yeah, they do. I agree.
I think they have to because, you compare it, like I said, to Martin County or Palm Beach and St. Lucie County, whether it's fire rescue or police, it's,
Yeah, we do a really good job of hiring, it seems like. You have good people.
yeah,
You know.
and they stay. Typically, the ones that want to stay are going to stay. Once they go past that certain benchmark, I feel like they're not hopping ship, I guess, for more pay or pension, all that
Right.
stuff. Once you're in there for so many years, you're going to stay with your pension.
Right.
That's what I see. I don't know what that, year mark is, but I'd imagine once you're like past 5 years or even 8 years, you're staying typically. You're not going
Even
anywhere.
like 3. There's a
Yeah.
baseline of experience that you're getting, and if you're trying to get more, and you're not necessarily wanting to be in this is a small town.
Yeah.
I'm sure we have drama that comes up, but compared to Port St. Lucie or Fort Pierce or West Palm or
Yeah.
Miami, where you'll probably get paid more,
Yeah.
but
You're not doing as much. Don't get me wrong, and I don't want
but it's
anyone
a
to take
lot more
offense.
dangerous.
Yeah.
is what I'm trying to say. There's a higher likelihood you could die or
Yeah.
get hurt and not be able to work or
Yeah.
whatever.
I used to say that I wasn't really concerned for a structure fire for City of Stuart Fire Rescue, but the last several years it's changed. What do we have? One ladder truck, I believe.
Are there firewalls between all these buildings down here?
I don't even know. They're stick built, some of them.
Yeah.
And as we keep adding more 4-stories, I mean they're all plywood, and yeah, they might have sprinklers and stuff, but man, getting
And that's
people
the
stuck.
double-edged sword is you're trying to get more units and you're trying to get them cheaper,
Yeah,
but often does that savings even translate to the renter? No.
yeah,
They got it up quick and they got it up cheap, but who netted the difference
Yeah.
of what otherwise would have been concrete? The units are the same price as the concrete ones.
Yeah.
It's just because that's what a 1-1 is this
yeah.
at the end of the day, So who nets that?
Yeah, and there, like I said, there's other things. I mean,
You can't do rent control here.
No, you can't.
So it's going to be whatever the market says. And if you could never build enough units for New York and Fort Lauderdale and New Jersey and New Hampshire, all the people that would love to have a little, condo or apartment or townhouse in Martin County.
They would eat them up.
The myth that we just need more units for our workforce, that's not who's living there, man.
That's
You
not
could-
who's living
no,
there. They can't afford it.
No.
They
So
can't.
all these are all occupied by people from out of state, man.
Yeah.
That would love to live close to the beach and this quiet compared to New York traffic.
Yeah. To us, it's gotten extreme.
It's awful, yeah, but to them it's like, no, you can actually drive here.
Yeah. There's even on like, I mean, I can compare the schools, like I said, once again.
Right.
I probably get 20, 30, 40, 50 phone calls a week sometimes looking for childcare because they're full.
Right.
And I think some of it is, qualified staff and just having a location as well. It's very unique to find a location that'll work for our industry.
Right.
There was something else I was going to talk about with like,
What do you got?
for like, as far as like, the whole fire and an inspection and stuff, like I can talk about the project, Waterfront Restaurant, right? That's city-owned property. That one really got me because there was commissioners ready to stroke a $700,000 check.
Give the context for what we're talking about for people who don't know.
Okay, so it's a Waterfront Restaurant. It's right next to City Hall. It's the west side of City Hall. It's city-owned property.
It used to be,
Mulligan's.
and then before that,
Was it Spodo's? I believe the Oyster Spodo's. Most people are going to know it from Mulligan's, though. Yeah. I'd imagine. I don't know the address for that, but Chris is going to pull it up.
I got you. I'm not as good at researching as you.
Well, it's not really a computer either.
I'm more of a boomer.
So I don't consider laptops computers, by the way.
Fair enough.
A computer is a desktop with a... I argue with my family on this as well, because when they're having a computer issue, they're like, oh, the tablet's not working. I said, well, that's your problem. It's a tablet. So I always solve it with a computer.
Smart.
But yeah, so the Waterfront Restaurant, right? It was Mulligan's. I believe it was Spodo's before Mulligan's. And it's city-owned property. And you had an applicant, the restaurant Waterfront. They went in there and renovated it. And this was when Dave Diaz was the city manager at the time. And there was a number being thrown out between 500 and 700,000, I believe. There was probably other numbers in between that I'm missing. But I believe there were two commissioners that were just ready to give away $700,000 of money, right? And sure, they might have sunk a bunch of money into it, but that stuff, if it's city-owned property and the stuff they were pointing out comes back to, a fire marshal and a building official, right? And I'm trying to point fingers at anybody or anything, but maybe that stuff should be inspected, more thorough before someone signs a triple net lease and you take it as is, right? Because I know, Chris, if I did that as a business owner and I went and took an as-is triple net, what do you think they're going to tell me?
Yeah, go pound sand.
Kick rocks, Mr. Reed.
Which a lot of people don't know the difference between a commercial and, like a residential
commercial is way different.
Lease. Mm-hmm. But you have to do everything on a commercial.
Everything.
You're
Especially
renting
if
a
it's triple
shell.
net.
Yeah, you're renting a shell.
You're responsible for everything.
You rent a space.
What did they end up getting anyway? 200,000, I believe.
3 maybe.
200,000 or 300,000, something like that.
Because structurally, the foundational pillars were compromised.
Yes.
So that was
which should have
been
better
the
communication.
Initial conversation with former manager Dias.
Yeah.
Is we got to, the city should be responsible for the structural integrity.
Yes.
But it seemed like as things started going and the renovation started happening, and it's beautiful what they have done with it. It's beautiful, but that was the rationale for why we were going to potentially reimburse them for more than just that structural side of it.
Yeah. I love the restaurant.
Oh, the kitchen needed to be redone, and that needed to be redone, and
the flooring, the decking.
Yeah. So
basically a bunch of improvements on top of it and stuff. And I don't know. I'm not here to talk bad about Waterfront. I think the restaurant's great.
It's beautiful.
Love it.
They rent our building. I've heard it's amazing food. They do really well.
Have you eaten there yet?
No, I'm kind of afraid to because I didn't advocate for giving them more money. I know.
So you're not the only one that says
maybe it's
that.
neurotic, but
so you're not the only one that says that. There's somebody that works. I won't even name his name. He works in public works, and he will not patronize businesses in the city of Stuart because he's worried about repercussions because he's cost applicants money per se.
Right.
Which is crazy to think like that. But I understand where you're coming from. I will say you're missing out though.
I'm sure it's good. Yeah, there's a good picture of it.
They have a good wedge salad.
I'm sure, man.
Everything I've had from there is good. The service is good. The view.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is an amazing place.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were there.
I've been there when it was Mulligan's.
Did you go for the board thing when they had the big event for all the board? Oh, you didn't even go
That's
for
what I said to
that?
Mary. She's like, "You coming?" I'm like, "I don't know if
Because I went to that. For people that don't
Half
know, I
of
do
us-
sit on the board of adjustment, so I was invited.
half of us were against giving the money. What if? Should we not pick a different venue? What if they're mad at me?"
I think that was before as well. I think it might have
It
been
was
like
after.
Was it
That was after.
when it was settled,
I
or
think it was right after. Yeah.
Okay?
That
It must have
that's,
been right after because
Board
they had
member
come
appreciation lunch.
in. Yeah, I went to that. I think I had a chicken sandwich. It was pretty good.
I'm sure it was totally perfect.
But I do like. I love
Well,
downtown.
you didn't advocate against it, so you were probably
Well,
not that they would ever hurt anybody's food.
yeah. No, I get it. I don't know. Like I said, the city is unique. Everybody loves the restaurants. It's parking though. I
Right.
think.
Especially down there.
Geez, I think it was like 3 weeks ago, right? I was going to actually put a dash cam in my truck. I drove around for 15 minutes.
You should.
Right? And I think I'm going to do it, and I want to film it and just fast forward it with a real-time date stamp, right? And just show, because I see commissioners that say, oh, you can find a parking spot.
Right. There's no problem with parking.
Where?
Yeah.
Where? You think my 84-year-old grandma's going to come from Palm City to patronize a restaurant?
Especially Flagler over there. There's nowhere when it's time. It's time to go eat, or
Yeah.
you're not finding a spot over there. Like even at the commission meetings, I can be there. I can show up at 3:34, and it can be really tough.
Absolutely.
I might have
Especially if
to
there's an event.
Park down by Flagler Center or more further down.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be like that. It really shouldn't.
It's just, what I don't appreciate is when people are saying that and then the gaslighting ensues. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
That's not what you see.
Yeah. Well, they also say that when you come downtown that you're not going to a specific restaurant, right?
There's that thing too, yeah.
That blows my mind. If I want to go to Spritz and get the Chipotle Club sandwich that I love there,
Right.
I typically park at City Hall or somewhere close.
Right.
I don't
You don't
want to
wanna
park
walk.
like Oak and Ember,
Yeah.
even though I will walk.
You don't want to park at the Brightline Garage
Yeah.
and take a tram to come get a sandwich.
I want to be in control, all right? I'm not, no
Right.
offense to the tram driver. I've been on the tram, but
Yeah.
if I'm going downtown, I want to drive. Or I do live close enough, right? So typically I will walk.
Right.
I have a golf cart.
But what about August, September when it's 1,000,000 degrees? And who lives here?
You
right?
want to drive.
So who can afford to live around here unless you are in some kind of
Yeah.
mixed use apartment or,
Or you've had your
you
property.
work downtown. Yeah, you've been here for a while. Who's going to be able to afford to live here?
Yeah.
Boomers.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I could never afford my property where my house is.
I think most of us are kind of in that boat right now.
I have it because it's been in my family for 30 years, and that's the only reason why I was able to do that.
Right.
I knocked down, even though we tried to fix what was there, that was the original preschool building for anybody that doesn't know, and I tried to fix what was there. My architect wanted me to sign a release, and at that point we pulled the plug and we knocked it down and started fresh, and that's where the nightmares began with the city. And that goes back to 2017, 2018. Even trying to build a house in the city was difficult. And then look what happened from like 2017 till now with multifamily stuff.
There's definitely been a shift lately, though. We
For the better.
We got really good at doing a certain kind of a thing with multifamily. Like we got really streamlined at it, and Costco, I feel like, was the ultimate expression of that. We were able to make it work. We made it happen.
Yeah.
But since there's 2 new commissioners and there's been a different tone, there's a new development director. She's hired somebody new. It's very different now, and so there is more of a. Not that there wasn't people really looking at everything, but there's definitely now there's a more
accountability.
Right.
There's more eyes watching. So I will talk on like the development staff, like Jody and Chris.
Awesome.
I appreciate what they do.
Yep.
I had a meeting with Jody 3 weeks ago. I think it was like an hour-long meeting.
Yep.
And I just told her how much I appreciate her. Like,
she's really trying to do a good job.
yeah. And I've been on the other end myself personally, right?
Yep.
And, from that perspective, yeah, okay, it was a difficult process. But when you look at it, like the whole picture, they're really tearing up these applications and they're going through them with a fine-tooth comb. Chris and Jody, and even the presentations that they're putting on, very thorough.
A big part of that too is Mortel.
Yeah, pushing.
Jody's wired that way, but Mortel is also like, hey, dig into this, look at that.
Yeah.
So it's coming from top down, which is nice.
It is nice when you have the leadership role, I guess, just making sure things are done to code correctly, thoroughly. You're always going to miss stuff, right? I don't care how good you are.
Everybody's
Listen,
human.
I miss stuff.
Yep.
Even my own house, I don't even think that's built to code for certain things.
Watch it.
Honestly, like, so I have and I have no problem saying it on the record, it's a non-conforming structure for certain things. I think for an accessory structure, you had to be so many feet away, but because they approved the entire site plan, it's okay. That's just one example. But yeah, I don't know. I love where I live and work, and I'm fighting to protect it. There's been social media has been pretty good. There are some people that care about certain things. Like I had a guy asking me my party affiliation. I mean, it's a non-partisan race.
For the most part, when you go door to door, especially, the main bell curve doesn't care. It's really those three things I mentioned: clean water, reasonable growth, not no growth, not and then low taxes. Just don't tax everybody to death. Don't raise taxes. And then you'll have like on the ends of the bell curve where people get hyper partisan, or they're asking you about like really intense issues that you have no control over. It's more of just like a character assessment.
That's what it is. They just want to know.
And I would tell them. I had some doors that were shut in my face. I would tell this is how I'm never going to vote on the thing you're asking me about, but this is how I feel about it. Like, okay, get out or high five, but most of the time my first response would be like I have no, January 6th, I'm never going to, it's not going to be like something we're going to vote on. This is what I'm about. This is what I'm advocating for. This is my platform here. If you want to know, okay, sure. But
see, like I'll be honest with you, from who I am, I avoid it. Because to me it's totally irrelevant, I guess, on a local issue typically.
It is.
But
there is a percentage of people who it almost doesn't matter what you advocate for. They're more like party affiliated. They are. You could be for all the things they're for, but if they think you're in the wrong gang, if you're a Crip versus a Blood or vice versa, like no. You're
not going to get their support no matter what.
Yeah, it's just the way it is.
And I respect everybody's opinion when it comes to that. Hopefully people see into that. So I haven't really.
The vast majority do.
The
vast majority are just trying to figure out where you stand on the issues that will come in front of you.
So I haven't been sure on. I guess to me I'm treading lightly constantly. I feel like.
But I will say be transparent too. If
someone asks
people are
me,
pressing for you, because that was one of the complaints I heard about another commissioner was when they were going door to door, like I guess it tells you who it was.
And for me, it's more. I'm not a big social media person, right? So like, if someone's coming at me on social media, like call me on the phone. My number's posted there. I'll go sit down and meet with you in person. I just don't see the point in going back and forth with someone.
Yeah, you should not argue with anybody.
No, I'm not going to argue with anybody. But like, it's
never productive.
Even a response sometimes, like, has to be a phone call, like, to get more in depth.
Especially as you get close to the election, if whoever is running against you's fans, family advocates feel like they're losing in that platform or arena, you may. I noticed that as it got towards the very end, that people would try to go and ask questions to elicit a bad reaction. I did notice some of that. So like you're not genuinely asking me how I feel about that thing. You're trying to get
just
me
poke the bear, I guess.
Yeah, you're trying to get me to say something.
That's
damaging, or I don't know. You're just trying to character assault me in a question.
I'm pretty intelligent.
Like, we all know you're a jerk, but how do you feel about this? Right. I guess I'm not getting your vote.
And I'm pretty, intelligent when it comes to social and emotional, I guess, because of work. So I pick up on that stuff very easily. And I have no problem giving honest answers, right? Now, there's times where I'm not going to play into it. Right. But for the most part, everything's been receptive of very, very positive feedback.
Because you're still early.
It's early. I'm super early.
July, August gets interesting.
And I wanted to be super early. And the biggest thing on being super early was because I'm kind of winging this, right? I don't.
It gives you time to solidify how you feel about different issues that maybe, like, if you haven't spent as much time on water as
Yeah.
development, now you can really start to explore that and talk to people and go, man, that makes sense. This is really what
Yeah.
this is how I feel about parking. This is how I feel about Main Street. This is how I feel about these various,
Yeah.
you have time.
Yeah. And development, development obviously is my strong point because I have researched development
yeah.
and the city code very well. Even parking space sizes,
But
right?
you'll start to get into the budget, right? You're going to start.
Yeah.
That was like a weak part for me is I know generally like low taxes, smaller government for
Yeah.
me. But like, what do we spend our money on and how and what are we doing and where's it go? Like, that's something I've had to learn. I'm
Yeah.
still learning.
Well, I will tell you, there's one thing that I've always questioned. Why does my trash get picked up once a week in the city and I pay out the wazoo, right, for trash and water, right, utilities, compared to Martin County? It is amazing the difference. You can have a house that has, in Martin County, if it's been homesteaded for a while, let's say it's $1,200 in property taxes.
Yeah.
You get trash picked up twice a week. I pay more than that, and I get once a week.
So if you win, right, that's one of the cool parts about getting the seat is now you get to schedule time with the city manager,
Yeah.
city attorney. You can even ask for other staff to be there and you can start figuring it out.
Why is it like this?
What's going on?
Yeah.
How do we get, and either it makes sense or it doesn't. And then like, hey, I think we should bring this up. I'd like to motion at, the next meeting. If you see that solution there, let's try to clean this up. You can do that.
Yeah, because that one's always gotten me. Or I'll give you an example. I have my water irrigation, right? I've been told that it doesn't make sense to put in another meter just for irrigation. But when you look at city code, you need, when you do a house, right, you have to have grass that touches the road. I don't know if you knew this, right? So we're always pushing for like water conservation and stuff. But if you have grass, well, you have to water it, right? Mm-hmm. Otherwise it's going to die.
Exactly.
So
there's a lot of those little things that don't make sense.
it doesn't make sense, right? We have Sammy the sailfish, right, telling me to save water conservation, yet you
Because think about it.
car washes.
Up until the last election, every 2 years you had a different batch of people with different ideas.
Sammy the sailfish has been around for how long?
But all of those little things
Yeah.
that add up, that you end up with a big mess of things that don't make sense in land use and code. Those were all little, different batches of people.
And I mean, as far as water conservation, that's been a huge thing in the city, right? Regardless of what commissioners have come through. And I was just using that for one example, the car washes, right? I know some reclaim water, right?
From what I understand, some will retain it on site and recycle it.
Yeah.
Filter it
You
and
still
recycle
have evaporation, right?
You're not wrong.
So like you can, I guess everything is a moot point when it comes to that stuff. And
worse than that, taking 2 acres of upland preserve in Haney Creek and turning it into
a car wash. I was there at that meeting, by the way.
Jeez.
And
like how can you in one breath be encouraging everybody to be, environmentally conscious,
right?
Save water, but also we're going to, and we don't have to. We could totally leave it alone. We could make it a park. We could do whatever we want. There's no developer that has any by right. It's our property.
Correct.
And we are advocating for turning 2 acres across from North River Shores.
Car wash.
Car wash.
Do you think North River Shores wants to see that?
No.
If I lived in North River Shores, I wouldn't want to come to that light and see it.
That exposes, the, I don't know the term for that, but like a false, it's a fake excuse of worrying about getting sued. When there's no threat of getting sued, we're just advocating for a thing.
Have you ever walked Haney Creek?
It's amazing.
Very nice. A lot of money went into
and
that.
I would love to see the other side. That's been my talking point is I want that to be a trailhead because you can't really park.
Yeah, parking's weird.
The other side, there's not really a way. So if you actually had a legit place to park and then a trailhead there, and like if the 1/2-cent sales tax passed, that's something I'm going to be pushing hard for is developing your parks. Mm-hmm. Like Haney Creek would be the big one.
We have some good parks. We really do. Most people don't even know about Shepherd's Park. I mean, probably should keep it quiet. That's a great spot.
Or Possum Long.
Yeah, and you see certain I mean, I'm a boater, right? I mean, so we can talk about that. The parking there for a big boat, no bueno. Right. I wish I was more involved, I guess, in the process for stuff like that.
And even at Shepherd's, that building there we own.
Yeah,
that's one
the
we
marina
can lease.
there.
That's a conversation that we're not sure what to do with that property.
It's an awkward.
But that could be something that could be an amenity for shepherds, or
Yeah. And even how they designed it. I mean, they did kind of design it to where you can't park boats along the seawall, right?
Mm.
In my opinion, it's more difficult unless you're on a dinghy and you don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
You're coming off the sailboat and leaving your dinghy there. But I don't
Dude,
know.
we've been talking.
What time is it?
We've been going for over 2 hours, 2:15.
You know, it's funny. I told my family like 11:30,
All right.
12.
It goes quick, right?
Yeah, it really does. Even on the Casey Ingram show, I felt like it was, and I love the Casey
Yeah,
show, right?
But it's fast.
But it was so fast, Chris.
That's why I wanted to do it like this, because once you've been on one of those interviews, you realize like, man, there's like, I wanted to say so many things, and I hope I got the main point across of who I am, But
And it
being
is
able to
difficult.
open up and talk.
Well, you're more like this is relaxing to me.
Right.
There's no pressure. There's no light right in my face to get a good, you know what I mean? And I love what they do and stuff.
She's gonna come on
Okay, that'll be interesting.
because she's part of why I'm doing this too.
Maybe for the fair stuff.
whatever. I just want.
Yeah.
I would love to pick her brain about even interviewing people.
I think she's very knowledgeable.
She's really
because
good at
she's in the
interviewing.
know-how.
Dude, she's really good at interviewing.
Yeah.
It's easy to take for granted, but she's very organized because she doesn't
Yes.
have as much time, and she gets a lot out of a person that she's talking to
In a short time.
in
30
a
minutes.
short time. She's good at it.
That 30 minutes felt like 5 minutes, just so you know. I mean, you've been
I
on
know.
there.
I know it's fast.
You've been on there, and it was so fast. I mean, for me to be on here for, I don't know,
2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah. And because I've watched some of your podcasts, right? What I like to do is I sit on my couch with my 65-inch TV.
Perfect.
I got the surround sound,
Perfect.
and I'm
Yeah.
so relaxed, and I love watching all of them there.
Right on.
I actually watched the Main Street one because
Yeah.
that was a big thing and stuff. And, there's been a lot of people even talking about that. They're like, oh, they shouldn't get the money. And it's a catch-22. It depends on what you're going for as a city, I feel.
I think a good question is always compared to what? If you don't like what it is, compared to what? Right? You can't just say that this isn't good and they shouldn't get the money and yada, yada. Compared to what? Like,
Yeah.
do you want to hire somebody else like we had in the past that we paid that money to plus FRS benefits? And we had to manage Flagler, and there's no money going into making Flagler better, right? Because she's raising money to update the windows and do the things. And also, we have access to Flagler now, right? We have city days where we can use it for our meetings, where in
Really?
the past it was basically privately leased and we never went in there. The public never had access to it. The public can now rent Flagler Center for their weddings. Or
So when did that happen? Because my sister got married there. So it's been like that for quite a while then.
so
'Cause she's been
before
married
that,
for-
there was a previous. I'll leave her name out of it, but there was
Yeah.
somebody. There was somebody who we leased it to, and she would use that facility for her events, right? So if you did an event through her company,
Mm-hmm.
but now like you can go to Candace and you can rent it for your wedding, or
Yeah.
it's
And I love talking to Candace. I've talked to her a couple times.
so it's like if you don't like what it is,
Mhm.
right? And when I first came in, I was harder on her because I didn't fully understand all of the moving pieces, right?
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, well, compared to what? Do you want the city to have to hire somebody?
It's going to cost more.
Right. Do you want more expense on the city, or do you want it to be more like public-private partnership?
Yeah.
And they've got their own reasons for why this needs to be successful, and it's out of your hands.
Yeah.
For me, for my philosophy, let her do
They
it.
have been very successful.
Right.
I mean, when you look back, look at the Green Market where it was, right? It was in
Right.
City Hall parking lot, and it was the tiniest thing ever.
And could it be better? Sure. Like, let's have constructive criticism of how, and let's work on it. And that was my contention at that meeting was, I just don't want to lose out, even if we're not going to renew your contract each year for that 70 grand. I would really like you to continue to come in front of us once a year. If you want to do an ongoing thing, fine, whatever. But
Yeah.
like, please come in front of us so we can at least talk about it. And those conversations will happen behind the scenes, but formally as well. So everybody
Yeah.
has access to that conversation
That was an
too.
intense meeting.
It was.
It was pretty intense. I mean, I was on the seat of my chair the whole time.
It worked out okay. It was
Yeah.
just awkward. You had
It was.
either people like, because in the old days, Main Street, Main Street, the Joan Jefferson era before the internet, whoever they supported won. They had a power. They were very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
If they supported a candidate, that candidate got. And I think there's still maybe the perception that you don't want to upset Main Street or something. So you saw some commissioners that will go without name
Yeah.
sort of like tripping over themselves to throw themselves in the camp of supporting them without any questions at all, or like,
Yeah.
how dare you even question anything? And then you had other commissioners maybe that were really hard on them too, and like
Yeah.
sort of attacking the value maybe. I don't know. But what I was trying to achieve was like a balanced conversation where we can really get to what kind of arrangement do we want to have with these guys? Because it seems like we're
Yeah.
just kicking the can. It's awkward. Nobody's really just articulating what you want
Mhm.
from them. And so she's coming in front of us scared she's not going to get that money. She needs to maintain
Yeah.
her budget. Like, do we want to just say this is in perpetuity, or what do we want?
Yeah, it was
weird.
It was an intense
Yeah.
showdown, I guess you could call it that. In the
Yeah.
end, they did get it.
I
and
think
stuff.
I think we got it all figured out though. It worked out, you know.
Yeah. No, I think yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, what do we got? When are we in February? Yeah, August 20th. I'm excited. I really am.
Good.
I'm so pumped up for this.
You should be.
It's something that's exciting. I haven't had any stress yet. I've been told the stress will come once you start voting on agenda items. That's when it comes.
I think
but,
for you with the research you do, you're not going to have a problem.
well, you need the facts to back up what you're
Right.
saying, right?
Right. The stress comes from maybe political pressure to do a certain thing, but as
Yeah.
long as what the majority of people who live here want is your guide, you're fine.
Yeah. I mean, I'm out in public a lot, right? I'm in downtown Stewart quite a bit. I don't want to be in downtown Stewart and people be pissed off at me.
Right.
That's not a good image.
Right.
I don't know, I like going out in downtown. I'm really not home besides to sleep or to cook dinner if I do cook.
And generally, as long as you have the people on your side, it's a good thing,
Yeah.
right? The people that the contingency, what do you call that? Your constituency of people that are not maybe going to like you.
Yeah.
That group probably don't even live here
Yeah.
in the city. You know, they're just trying to use the city to do business as a business opportunity to develop it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be pretty quiet. They're
Yeah.
not going to light you up on Facebook. You know, they're just not. You're not going to get any favors.
Which is totally okay with me. At the end
Right.
of the day, all I do is go
Exactly.
to work and open the preschool, and I want to go home.
I'd rather get high fives and hugs and thank yous
Yeah.
from the people that live here. That's my oxygen, man. Like that's what I want.
Well, that's what motivates you and
Right.
pushes you to do the right thing.
I don't want to have to duck my head in Publix and feel, you know,
I don't want that either.
right. I'd rather be like, hey, thank you, man. Thank you for what you said. That's so
Yeah.
cool, man. Thank you for being the one, you know, that's the best.
And that's the whole thing with the whole. I've been called a politician because my lips are moving and I'm lying. I've been hit with that, right?
Yeah, but when you vote, people will see if you are lying or not.
and I'm not a politician. I've told everybody I'm not. I'm probably the furthest thing from one. I feel like I'm not a politician at all. Even you know, showcasing like who I am and
And
stuff.
sometimes you may vote against what you perceive as your constituency, right? Like you'll have a base. But I think for the most part, as long as you can clearly articulate why,
Yeah.
what you're voting for may seem antagonistic, I think there's grace there. But if you consistently vote against that base and
Yeah.
what you went door to door and campaigned on, you're going to get wrecked.
Yeah, I mean we've seen it. People
there's
are upset.
grace, but you know,
Yeah.
if you continue to approve multifamily,
I'm,
you
I'm not a
campaigned on-
multifamily support person. I can tell you right
and you
now.
campaigned on putting a pause on development, which was up on that electronic billboard for one of us, you know. If that's what you campaigned on, and then you're doing the opposite repeatedly.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm in it for the people. I mean, honestly, it's as simple as that. And hopefully doing the right thing. That's huge to me.
Right on, man.
So I think we got a good thing going, and I'm super pumped.
Well, we'll revisit this and do
Yeah.
this again as we get closer, right? So like I don't know exactly when it'll be, June, July, August, but I'll probably watch for whenever Casey does them. But
Yeah,
when it's the most relevant for the people who are going to be trying to figure out who's who.
yeah,
This will live out there on Facebook and YouTube, and people can check back in and, cut it up into pieces and
Yeah.
share it, for content. But we'll revisit around that time. I'll be
Excited.
having everybody come back again.
yeah. It'll give me time to door knock, which I'm waiting on a couple things to finish up, and we're gonna be hitting the road. I actually just ordered 3 pairs of new shoes.
Yes.
Um,
You're going to need them.
Yeah, you rotate them every day. For anybody that walks a lot, just one shoe, maybe half the day, you switch into the other one. And I think that says enough about me. I mean, who else is going to go buy 3 new pairs of shoes to walk?
It makes a big difference when you show up physically to somebody's door.
Yeah. My whole goal throughout this entire process, for anybody that does know me personally, like I want to be physically ready and mentally ready, right? So even making my goal of going to bed, right? My phone goes into do not disturb at 8 o'clock at night until 5:30 in the morning. Nobody's going to bother me. There's 4 people that get through on that phone call, and that's it. So I'm focused, and this is it.
Well, I'm at 5% battery, so
We're good.
we're done.
We're done.
But we'll revisit. Thank you for running, man.
Appreciate it.
And let me know how I can help.
I will. Thanks for supporting me.
Yes, sir.